So the only way we could do that is if we did it with attic units, and attic units are not supposed to be awesome.
You know what's great about this show?
I love my attic
What
unit.
I like about this show is that nobody pays attention to anything.
Except for when the drip pan drips. That's a bitch.
Well, the attic units aren't supposed to be very efficient, though.
Are we on Twitch right now?
Yeah, we are.
I do. I see people.
That's
I
good.
See it's just me and you. Why is it so big? That's what she said.
I'm popping out the chat right now.
Oh,
yeah, Whiskey Flipper's there.
No, I think it was from last time.
Yep. No, it's not. It's not from last time.
I gotta like. It is warm in this room. Oh, yeah. She might open the window.
You should just take off your shirt.
Yeah, if you could just see your Prince patch, that would be good.
Welcome to the chat room. I never left, he says.
There we go. Now it'll light up in here. There we go.
Mr. Peabody, what's up, my brother?
Greetings.
We'll say hi to the turkeys out here.
Greetings.
Tired of the turkeys in here.
Should I quick make an album of Game Terminal so when I share about it, I can share it?
Oh, the place you said you'd never be able to go because you didn't have time because it was a work trip and you were busy, and I'm like, you gotta go. I'm glad you went.
Actually, I didn't say any of that stuff that you just said. I just said it might not be possible for me to go because it's a work trip. And the first thing I did was ask if we could go to Game Terminal, and nobody turned me down. So, that's where we ended up. It was pretty awesome.
I like that. That's what, like last year when I went to England, people were thinking, what do we do the night before the Back to the Future musical premieres? And there was an arcade. I think it was called N64. And everybody was like, well, nobody else has any ideas, so let's do it.
Right.
It was pretty decent. It was super Englishy.
Nice.
We were in Manchester, so
there we go.
I'm gonna keep that breakfast picture in there.
Oh, I need this. Go ahead.
I like how you guys both have like this like nice lighting, like this like background lighting, and I've got like windows.
Well, it's funny if I open the show notes, my
same thing happens to me. Actually, I was thinking about I used to have a light bar in front of me that would just statically light me.
I do have a light bar. Let's see.
Yeah, and and then I got really tired of looking into a light bar, so I don't care anymore.
Mine is slightly above me, still in eye line.
I really don't like this Twitch chat thing. I can't see how many people are in the chat. I don't know if I should.
There's 5.
Should I just? That's like
it's
us
right
and
there.
the 2 people that are there.
I keep the main window open too. So
yeah.
I don't know what your problems are.
Since I'm on the wire.
My problem is you, Brian. It's been
I do like how you told Allan to like strike a good pose in his poses.
Yeah, no, it's great, right? Like he disconnected, like he wasn't thinking about it, you distracted him.
We need to go back to YouTube, Mr. Peabody says.
Yeah, that just sounds, no offense, but it just sounds like old people when people say that. Go back to YouTube, and it's like, no, fucking YouTube. Fuck YouTube.
Speaking of YouTube, I started a YouTube channel called Space Time Junction. Everybody follow. Whoop, whoop.
I'm sorry, this episode is not rated G. Fuck YouTube.
Nice breeze.
Having an event? No, not now. Stop it. I posted on the Facebook page.
Oh.
Let's see.
That's funny. I'm getting a tutorial from our listeners. Click the user chat button to see who's in the chat, you dumbass.
Wow.
Thank you for that help, Whiskey Flipper. I appreciate it, actually.
Users in chat.
Yep. If I actually did any work to like figure out how to work stupid Twitch, it would,
our guest tonight could probably tell us how to do half this stuff.
And by the way, we've played stuff on Twitch and not gotten flagged for anything.
I love it.
As soon as we poured it over to YouTube, even Mark's like karaoke version of Carry On Your Wayward Son or whatever, What song was it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, it got flagged for melody. For melody. They can't do that.
That is insane.
They don't own the melody.
Speaking of melody,
bastards.
For our What's in the Juke, I'm going to just leave it vague, but there's an AI website where you give it a song and the AI separates the vocals from the music. It's not done just based on, an algorithm. It's done it understands that there's words being spoken and it lifts those out. It is insane.
That's cool.
Whoever's in the chat, whoever's in the show right now, let's hit social media up and see if anybody will join us for this fighting stuff. Brian, do you have any fighting community friends that might want to join the chat right now?
No, I don't have friends.
Okay. Oh, well, that makes sense.
We're up to 7. We got 7.
7.
Nice.
Lucky 7.
As soon as we get 13, we'll start the show.
Okay, hold on. I can do that. Just a sec.
Let me log on as this guy. Let me log on as this guy.
Yeah, right.
Hold on. I gotta I haven't shared this stuff in weeks. It's really sad.
Neither have we, Brian. Neither have we.
If I posted, what's funny is that I manage the John's Arcade Facebook page. I wish you would let me post on there. That'd be great.
You should just start posting.
Here's a fun story. Before we start the show, I was in Arcade Restoration's Facebook group, which I'm probably going to quit again because I can't stand the idiocracy that goes on there. There are so many noobs and people LCDing machines and doing stupid shit. And this one fellow's having a problem with his Asteroids Deluxe cocktail.
LCD upgrade.
And I've
been watching that.
Yeah. And he's got no picture, which basically means, and everything else, quote unquote works, and that he's had other people check out his stuff. He's not the actual one troubleshooting. So he's like, yeah, transistors are good, caps are good, board's good, but he hasn't actually tested anything himself.
Right.
And so I don't really feel sorry for the jackass because he's asking for help and has actual no context over what he's working on. So, but I'm trying to be helpful anyway because, I'm a curmudgeonly old asshole who likes to help people.
I'm going to help you.
Yeah. So, 99%, it's got to be the monitor. Probably the bottle cap transistors on the frame. Because, Brian, we had this problem on mine, right? I got it home, no picture, right? It was one of the frame transistors, and then we had to crank the brightness and contrast to make it work, capped the chassis, and boom, we got picture, So I'm sure that's what it is, but because this guy doesn't have a bone in his body that will lift a soldering iron or buy a cap kit, he's going to just be like, help me or I'm putting it on Marketplace. And my first inclination is put it on Marketplace, motherfucker.
Yeah. Wah.
So that's my rant. My rant about the Arcade Restorations group, which is a giant group of noob assholes.
Yeah.
But how do you really feel?
Yeah, I'm going to be surly tonight. I don't fucking give a shit. So this is the F word show tonight.
Surely.
I didn't include this on my what I've been working on, but coincidentally, I bought an Asteroids cocktail, deluxe Asteroids cocktail.
I just sold one.
You did? How much did you make?
I only sold $550.
I got it for $400, fully working.
Yep.
And I can gauge the how much the guy knew about the game by what they do with the interlock. And of course, this one he had put masking tape on the interlock. Didn't know how to get it to you can't get it set to free play, so he would open the top of the game, smash down the interlock with some tape, and then hit the button on the little panel.
Clearly, the pros use
right. Tape. Correct. So when I showed him that you could pull the interlock out, he was like, "Holy shit! I can't believe this whole time."
Well, and so this guy's telling me the transistors are good, right? And I said, "Well, did you actually take them out or did you check them out of circuit?"
Right.
And he's like, "What is that?" So you don't know if they're working, right? Am I right about that? You just don't know?
There's a lot of angst here tonight. A lot of anger.
Listen, I'm going to just take it out on you if you don't agree with me. So start agreeing with me.
You should do what Jason Kopp did.
Oh. Just assume I don't agree with you. We can start there and let's go.
Isn't that like your MO for everybody on the planet, though? You don't agree with them?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Jason,
unfortunately, I don't agree with myself either. So, but go ahead, Mark.
So Jason fixed a Vectrex, and it's a vector monitor just like the Asteroids Deluxe is, right? And he always does like these crazy kind of redneck things. So he takes the flyback, the anode, and sticks it, and then ties like some solder to the frame, and then he gets it like 1 millimeter away from the anode, so that he can see if he has high voltage or not. He's gonna wait for it to arc. But when he turned it on, the arcing wasn't like, the deadliest event that was ever going to happen and you were going to die. It was just like, whop, 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 whop,
I don't know. I think the most redneck thing I saw was the 802 that I had.
Yes.
With the 22 shell instead of a fuse.
Oh, yeah. No, you can't beat that. I mean, when you use weapons to fix arcade games, come on.
It's like what amperage is this? About 50 here.
Right.
You know what? That'd be a great thing to test. Let's get a 22 shell and see what amp fuse it replaces. We'll just keep going up until the thing.
I think Billy Seven's got the thing. He's like Adam is always right. So we got to get this show going because we got a guest coming on at 9:00 and I don't want to be late. So
Billy, we're gonna have a conversation early tomorrow.
Live from KOYR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is Arcade Radio.
Where I live.
Well, who hit the button?
Live from KOYR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is
Arcade Radio. Where I live. Run.
All right, let's get this show on the road.
I like the ending.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry I cut you out of it a bit there. That was not on purpose. Really, it was not on purpose.
The first time or the second time?
Yeah, no, it actually was on purpose. Okay, so I'll go first. Chatters, check out that link in the chat. I got to go to a little place called Game Terminal in Nashville, Tennessee. Brian tells me it was like a $4 million investment. Is that right? I can't remember.
It was a multi-million-dollar investment. It was pretty serious. They, for those of you who know Jeff Willard, who's been a guest on the show, many of the games he's restored have ended up there.
Yeah, I talked to him. He said 20 to 30 of the games that he restored are on that floor at any given point. If you scroll through the photos, you'll see some really awesome stuff. First of all, I'm just going to jump right out of the arcade. They have like a really cool lawn bowling and shuffle board area in the back, so you can actually do stuff besides arcade games. But the really cool thing is when you walk in, there's no cover charge. All of the classic games, there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 rows of classic games, probably, 40 deep each, and they're all on free play. If you want to play it like a shooting game or a pinball game, that costs you a token or two. I'm not really sure how much because I didn't play any pinball while I was there. But those do cost you tokens. But other than that, I mean, there's a really good beer selection, local beers, and a full bar with Tennessee whiskey and my favorite Jack Daniel's single barrel, which is really, really good. So anyway, it's really a fantastic environment. If you look at the photos, you'll see the depth of what's going on there. It's quite amazing. So also, there were 2 ice cold beers and a Zeke's Peak, and both of the ice cold beers were broken. One was completely broken, still on. The other one worked kind of, and Zeke's Peak worked flawlessly. So I ended up playing Zeke's Peak quite a bit while we were there. Lots of rare games, like a dedicated Juno First, Gapless dedicated, Joust 2, Discs of Tron, the not the environmental, which is actually I see less of those actually than I see of the full environmental cabinets, and then a smattering of your favorite. And I played a game called Domino Man. Do you guys know Domino Man?
Oh, they're so good.
It's a terrible game. It's awful. But it's really cool because it's pretty rare. It's made by Bally Midway. So
was there an exterminator?
There was actually, they had a good sense not to put an exterminator in there because I'm pretty sure it would have driven everyone away.
Caused the building to burn down.
Mm-hmm.
And Whiskey Flipper did actually note that they had a Sinistar and a Duramold, which is probably one of the rarest games they had on the floor there.
Yeah, I have pictures of that.
3 of those.
Yeah. And then also there's a couple of videos. I took a video of, it was the first time I had seen a dedicated Pac-Mania, and the marquee is actually 3D. So it's pretty cool. And then all of their cornhole games in the back were Mortal Kombat themed. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, I digress. That was an awesome trip. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, that is probably my second favorite arcade in the United States that I've ever been to. The first being Grinkers, which is no longer open. Yeah. So anyway, Mark, what you been working on?
Hello, and thanks for listening in from the Arcadosphere. This is Season 5, Episode 21 of the Arcade Radio Podcast. Today is Thursday, August 5th, 2021, and the time is approximately 7:33 p.m. I'm your host, Mark, your girlfriend, Jennifer Parker, called Shields. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Adam Stevanovic, and Paradise Arcade Shop proprietor and Jeff Bezos fashion consultant, Brian Thurston Hamill. I messed it up. Joining us tonight, he's into retro tech, an emulator enthusiast, and a renowned finder, gamer, beard expert, self-proclaimed nerd, and official narrator for hire. Ladies and gentle dudes, please give up a round of applause for Mr. Allan Sujano. Welcome to the show. I can't believe I got to say that.
Yeah, Mr. Sujano. Sujano.
Right. Okay. So what I'm working on? Sorry, I felt.
No, that's good. We should have done that intro. We just skipped it tonight.
Tell who writes the show notes.
I can almost read them.
You really can't because he reads them just as terribly as I do. So
right.
It's good.
I thought I would make it through without a follow. So okay. Yeah. So I acquired an Asteroids Deluxe for $400. It works. I'm pretty happy with that.
Cocktail or
cocktail? I was a little disappointed to learn the legs don't raise up or anything.
I know.
Like
that was one of my first complaints about it. I said to Brian, we need to make bar height legs for this thing.
I'm thinking I have a spare, duplicate centipede cocktail. I'm wondering if I could just transplant the legs. I mean, it depends on the
placement of the bolts,
the alignment of the holes and stuff.
Yep.
So that'd be kind of cool. But okay, so that's on the little side. I had the yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm just.
I thought you.
I was like, this is cool. Keep going.
Yeah. I have an electrical panel that I had replaced. I have Zinsco Sylvania GTE technology in my electrical panels here at this house, which is huge fire hazard. So I had them replaced yesterday, and so all of this is now being powered through modern technology, and so that's going to be pretty awesome. I also had an inlet for a generator installed because of the ERCOT Texas Power Grid is so great and stuff.
Wow.
So in case we ever have an outage, I will have a generator, and then we'll be able to plug it into the house and make the house still run. So that's going to be awesome.
Sweet. I was actually just talking to somebody about attached home generators, and I was thinking about doing the same thing.
it's awesome, and the outlook looks pretty cool. I made a TikTok.
Well,
look at it.
In Texas, you really need to have that.
Oh my God,
I need one here because we have a pump out.
They're the only state in the union that doesn't have like federally, subsidized electricity.
True.
Yeah, I don't understand what was the advantage of just having a closed-in state-only system?
Because we're better than the rest of the United States, and we're gonna secede.
No regulations.
Yeah.
And Texas's history with power companies like Enron has been really good.
What's funny, when I was a consultant for an electron and a design company here in town.
Yep.
We did work for Enron, so we had people on site and stuff like that. Of course, when you saw the documentary, where they're like, "Turn off the grid so that we could raise the grass," we weren't in that room. We never saw that.
Turn off the grid.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see what else. I got a vintage Coke machine, like a 70s era Coke machine from Coin Op Warehouse.
Nice.
Right now it's Coca-Cola. I think I'm going to leave it Coca-Cola. That will be in the 1985 arcade.
So I will say, if you want more Coke machines, look at the Colorado area. If our chatters get mad, there was like a bunch of them for $50 to $100.
Insane. And I wouldn't
Not
mind.
joking.
So your apartment's available now? Did you leave that lease exactly when you think you were going to leave that lease, or did you have to extend it or anything?
No, I left like a day early.
Yeah.
That's nice.
By the way, I want to welcome Abbott Costello to the chat tonight. He's there. We got Casino Thanks is here. Is that Andrew? Because isn't he the casino guy?
Well, I posted in the Retro Arcade Stick Collective, which is the FGC main group on Facebook, and in the Minnesota FGC. So We'll see. We might be getting some fighting game guys in here.
DJ Norman, D Jones, 26. I don't know what that is. San Francisco, maybe. Green Wing. That guy's here every week. I'm actually really disappointed that our Juggernaut dude is not here to make fun of. But Mike Page is here tonight. Thanks,
Mike.
Mr. Peabody. Ryan's here. S1500. Good to see you. Whiskey Flipper and Ice Cold Joe 42. So thanks guys for listening in so far. This has been a terrible show. So wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm judging. I'm
gonna say that the last thing I did, I capped a 4800 K13.
Oh,
and it was super awesome. It's such a small little kit. I had a good time there. I think that's all I did.
That was Wells Gardner, right? So that's a great little monitor.
You did that for your Warlords. The last time I recapped a Warlords monitor, I was post call, recapped the whole thing. Was having a party at the house that night. Put it back in the machine. Turned it on, saw smoke, realized I had not cut a single one of the leads.
Oh, I've done that.
And I'm like, don't recap monitors post-call.
Or while you're at a party, either. That's so Sanyo was what I have in my Warlords.
Right. Yeah, I actually have a Sanyo 14-inch. It needs a cap kit, and it's inverted, as it should be, right? I'm considering putting it in a game that doesn't need an inverted thing. Should I do the mod to it to make it non-inverted, or should I just
it's not like a huge mod, so
no, it's not.
I mean, you just reverse 2 signal wires and you're done.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the mod I saw was like strange caps replaced and stuff. No. Okay.
No, I just. If it's inverted, there's I think all you have to do is reverse 2 signal wires and bam. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
I could be black. I could be white.
Wait, it is 85639.
I could be wrong. I could be right.
Hey, Brian, what are you working on?
Well, I just moved back from Colorado, which was a trip and a half. So I had to load the games up out there. I stopped at an operator on the way back to see if I could maybe do a little warehouse raid, and it was closed. I got to look through a bunch of windows, see a bunch of old games sitting there stacked up. So I'm not going to say where that was. I'm going to try and hit it again at some point, but I will say it's somewhere between here and Colorado, in the middle of nowhere. What else have I been doing? We got my Warlords working, the upright, and the black and white monitor is a little iffy. Like, it's not working great. So I'm actually debating pulling it and throwing a color monitor in just for fun. See how that goes. aside from that, let's see. Pulled the Sinistar into the shop. We started working on that. Been playing around with. I remade the Defender joysticks, Joust joysticks, and I did them with bushings, so they're more reliable. I have some prototypes coming into those.
Oh wow!
And what else have I done? I've been like running around, like it's like I'm back here, and it's like doing cocaine and fixing games. Yeah,
and vacuuming.
Like, yeah, really.
Wait, weren't we talking about somebody else doing cocaine? It wasn't you.
No, we're talking about Brian. And the funny thing is that he's come back from Colorado and he's got like 4 bottles behind him right now.
It's incredible.
I'm on number 3.
So not on call, I see.
Yeah.
I don't have a job, so.
Oh shit.
Well, this job does not pay well. This job pays very badly.
My arcade radio check is like 2 years late.
Oh my god. Just wait till the residuals kick in.
Mark, did you tell him that we were gonna pay him?
I didn't know that.
Because Mark's probably due for like a 4 or 5 year check by now.
I've never gotten paid when I was in a band. They jokingly am like, "Oh yeah, we'll make $500." Still waiting.
For your $20, yeah.
$20.
The other fun thing I did was so we have a bunch of pallet racking in the shop, and all of my cocktails are up on pallet racks. And we just got Starcade is going to expand. We're taking over the Pop Belly space next door, and so we're going to move a bunch of cocktail machines in. And so I'm up in the pallet racking with people going, now if you fall, how are we going to explain this?
Yeah.
But making a list of the cocktail tables. So we've got probably going to take up about 12, but there are about 20 of them that are sitting up there in pallet racking in different states of being.
Are you going to make a beautiful hole in the wall to connect the two?
Yes, we're going to actually put a door in.
Nice.
So the last discussion was putting together a 4-player virtual racer. So we actually have 2 side-by-sides. So having a virtual racer set up with 4 games, 4 spots at the same time.
It's one of my favorite games ever.
It's a neat game. I've got the single players working up there right now.
Yeah.
And you know that if you have virtual racer, you can actually make one of the screens. So if you add like an extra screen, you can make that like the commentator, whatever screen, and that it will like watch the race from the commentator perspective.
That's cool. So, do we all talk about what we're working on now? I think we have.
I think that's it. The only thing I think I have to mention is that I am going to open a pop-up arcade somewhere in Houston for a month. We'll see what that's going to be like.
Nice.
Stay tuned.
All right.
I always felt that the true stars at Atari was engineering.
Oh, you're an inventor.
Yes, I am.
What have you invented?
A lot of things.
Like?
Like a lot of things. Like things that you've heard of.
Like?
Well, things that you will have heard of, okay? Patents are pending.
Arcade Gadgets with Brian McLeod.
Welcome to the gadget section. So we've got a couple of gadgets tonight. First one is actually, there's an interest list on KLOV looking for people who are interested in Vector Pong. So if you want to, there's only one working Vector Pong in existence. C. Wilkinson says should not be, and has put up a interest list to see who else would be interested in doing this. So far, there's only 2 pages on the list, not a ton of people, but it would be a lot of fun to do. So if you want to check that out, go. It's on KLOV in the new product section. Also, Jason Kopp comes out with a second modification for the controller mod on Star Wars. He's looking at putting a rumble strip in there. This has not been finished yet, but it's going to work off a...
What is that noise you're making?
What are you doing?
Adam's laughing.
He's got a small coin cell battery and a cell phone shaker. They're going to be running the software to control the second coin counter transistor to turn it on and off. And so that's available over on Facebook now. Is he starting to pre-sell these?
I doubt it. I didn't see anything like that. I think he's just he's teasing us. I don't know if it's going to happen.
So I mean, this was a question. This is a conversation that we were having actually before the show. Is when I'm one that likes modding things. I do a lot of stuff for the fighting game guys. But like, when do the mods become like
too much?
Yeah, I mean, pinball guys will take machines and like, buy a machine for $7,000 and spend like $3,000 on like ridiculous mods on them, right? And like, they pimp them out. But that traditionally has not been done on arcade machines.
True, although as the person who sells some of the coolest buttons that are transparent and illuminated by some of your own hardware that you've made,
yeah,
I think that as long as you honor the game and you don't bastardize it too much, I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, like my millipede that I just sold had a red lit trackball and a red lit button. That's not OG.
Right, and you do have that bowling pinball in that football right next to you, right? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I mean, some of these things like the bowling pinball, like duck pinballs existed back then, and like there were lighting mods on Crystal Castles for the trackballs. And
to be clear, they're not duck pin; they are candle pin.
Candle pin.
There's difference because duck pins are made out of like rubber.
Oh. So, but I think what I was thinking is like Rumble controllers didn't exist when Star Wars came out. So a lot of the stuff that you see coming out is kind of technology that could have existed in that era. Maybe it wasn't included in the game, but like, when does it actually go beyond?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and he's talking about being a ROM hack, which means it won't work on a 1-up. Actually,
amen.
It could if they ran MAME, right? They could get it to work, but
they would have to hack into that code. But then you and I have ESB Empire Strikes Back kits,
right? So it may or may not work depending on which ROM is affected. Right. I don't know. I actually like the idea of being able to put in a kit that you can turn on or off. I might find it novel, for a while to play Star Wars with some feedback when you get shot. And I think it's a great idea. Maybe it belongs in a 1-up. But I would be perfectly willing to try it if it non-invasively can be installed and removed. So, chatters, what do you think?
Yeah, let us know how you feel, especially if you're listening on a podcast in 2022. Hey,
yeah, I downloaded all those things and then I found out I'm missing some tools to do the work. So, plus you guys did, the last 5 days have been a nightmare for me. So,
work your work.
Well, I had to travel to Nashville. The best part of that was, of course, the game terminal. But I hate quick business trips like that, where you're Monday to Wednesday and you're basically on a plane for half the trip, and then barely sleep. So I don't know. I took a nap after work today.
Brian, who's been traveling for a year, goes.
Yeah, right.
All year, right?
I mean, the drive. Well, I'll tell you, the drive back, I mentioned that I stopped at an operator, but I also stopped at a hotel that I did like the pre-book online.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in, it's like, it's in the greatest hotel. It was pretty cheap. Go into the room, not joking. The toilet was not attached to the floor. Like I push it and it starts like tipping over.
Were you in Nebraska? Wait a minute.
No. Yeah, I was. Lincoln.
Oh my God, I've been there. And my wife's family is from Lincoln.
So and I booked the Days Inn, but the hotel is now called the Sunset Inn because the Days Inn, which is not a great hotel, right? Probably was like, yeah, you guys are not maintaining our quality standards.
No.
Yeah.
And then there was black stuff all over the floor, which coming out of like a year of surgical fellowship, I'm like, that could be blood. I mean, it's not blood.
Well, let's move through our next section because we got a guest coming up here. So
right,
should be on in a second.
The arcade news, arcades, pinball, industry alumni, arcade openings, selecting, celebrities, world record holders, operators, coin-out, conventions. The arcade news.
We interrupt the ventilated.
And now, the arcade news with
Hello. Hello, welcome to the news segment of the show. And by the way, that I gotta just thank Mark for doing all this prep work because having traveled, this is the best to have everything ready to go. And we have a Jersey Jack pinball announcing that Steve Ritchie is the new addition to the team, which is very interesting, I think. Because if you want a mediocre pinball design... No, I'm just kidding.
What the
fuck? I'm not disagreeing. I mean, the stuff that's been coming out of Stern has been a lot of recycled
that's my
ideas.
point, is that Stern has been producing tripe for the last 2 years.
One of my favorite pins is AC/DC. I really, there are some
that's a good pin.
Are really good pins, but
Here's the thing. I think Ritchie switching to Jersey Jack is going to give him a brand new creative outlet. He's going to be inspired to do something different. And I think that's the best part about him doing. I mean, if you get complacent in your job, if you're at a job for a long time, you could get complacent. So maybe, and now he'll never come on the show if he hears this interview, but
He doesn't have that long of a memory. Anyway,
he's also
here very well.
Yeah, I know. But
I walked him around at Southern Fried, and it's not easy.
But he is legendary, and he has done really freaking. I mean, as far as names in pinball design go, I think he's the top name for sure, right? But over the last few years, I've been unimpressed with what's come out at Stern, so I'm kind of super excited about this change. I think it might be good.
Excited for Jersey Jack or excited for Stern?
Jersey Jack.
Actually, I think Jersey Jack and Stern would benefit from this because now it might free up some new younger talent to come in. And
the next George Gomez might slip into that.
Yeah, you never know. So I mean, Steve Ritchie's a big name, so that's really help. I don't know how they got. I mean, maybe just hanging out at conferences and stuff. And maybe they're giving Ritchie a little more leeway, One of the things that Stern, I think, has been demanding is, they keep the costs down, keep their margins high. So they haven't done things like Jersey Jack has and put a giant LCD in the back. They keep these crappy little LCDs on their machines, So maybe this will inspire them, both companies to do something interesting.
I don't think cost factor is less of a factor at Jersey Jack. I mean, they're 3D printing their tubes and stuff. I mean, Jersey Jack cuts some serious corners on what they do. I mean, they make some great pins, but when you look at their toys, 3D printing toys is kind of ridiculous in a pinball machine. That's not durable. And I mean, I think.
Can you give us an example? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
So in Willy Wonka, the tubes on the left-hand side of the game, the joints on the tubes are 3D printed.
Oh, that
3D printing is not a reliable way of creating something that's going to have pinballs running through it, and people are having them crack.
Yeah.
So I mean, the good thing is you can print it again on a 3D printer. It's cheap to remake it. Right?
They have got to have enough margin in these machines to pay for a freaking post.
It's interesting how all this stuff works, and they squeeze. It's back to the old days where they keep squeezing every last penny out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the conversation we had last week with Warren Davis.
Yeah.
They didn't want to put a piece of foam in the knocker. I mean, piece of foam in a freaking keyboard.
Yeah. That's just some executive being a douchebag, if you ask me.
But that's still going on.
Yeah.
Right. So
and they pull their heads out of their asses and make a pinball machine that's worth, $15,000. It's so stupid. I can't believe they sell these things for as much as a freaking car. And
the Jersey Jack Collector's Edition pins, what they do in there code-wise and execution-wise is impressive. It's nothing. Yeah. They are neat pins.
But you know what? I can go buy a freaking amazing PlayStation 5 game for $60. And there's a huge team that works on those. So you can't tell me that the team at Stern or Jersey Jack deserves the same kind of, it's ridiculous what they get.
Well, but I mean, come on, you're selling how many more PlayStation 5 games than you are?
Millions.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care.
The quantity of scale is completely different, and your cost of manufacturing is zero. Once your code's done, you just push it up to the online store, and it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. That's it. Point taken. Yeah.
Let's just do virtual pin everything.
Yeah. All right. So the second news article is a Food Fight remake is in the works. Atari VCS is to get first dibs on this. I don't know where this was taken from, but it says, don't play with your food unless you can throw it and at the chef. Actually, played this at Game Terminal because they have a nice example of it there, an original cabinet, not restored artwork. It's beautiful. Anyway, the premise of Atari's Food Fight was simple enough. You assume the role of a boy named Charlie Chuck, who chucked food at people when he picked it up. So even single screen stage had a delicious flavored cone. Every single stage had a delicious cone for you to collect via your giant, gross snake-like mouth that would open. But beware, because standing between you and that sugary treat were a gang of angry chefs that would try to stop you from getting to your ice cream cone. So you'd pick up food and throw it at them along the way. So Atari has just announced a Food Fight remake is on the way for the Atari VCS console. The game will have exclusive content on the VCS, but it will later launch on the PC, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch. So, and I guess it's being built up from the ground up with 3D graphics, which, why? Okay, so if they do like they did with the PlayStation remakes of Defender and Q*bert, I'm out. That's dumb.
I haven't even seen those. Are those bad?
They're terrible.
Oh.
So, I mean, if they're doing like some sort of weird 3D first-person food fight, I don't give a crap. I'm not going to...
Throwing things at people in 3D sounds fun, though, kind of. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it depends on, who's... I don't know. I'm never buying a VCS, so there's that.
No, it's a PC. Let's just be honest with ourselves.
And actually, you can take the OS and install it on a PC.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can. It was, the one nice thing they did with that system was I saw it at CES 2 years ago. They have a really neat joystick for it. So they took the classic Atari joystick and they added rotary capability to it, which is actually kind of a neat touch on that.
Yeah. The peripherals are great. The game controllers are awesome. So
yeah, but outside of that, yeah.
And when your top developer quits the project like 2 years before it's like released, you got problems.
And you're no longer allowed to like play my food fight, gushing over like, oh, I got the, you're done, you're cut off.
What are you talking about? Gush.
Food.
What's the matter with you now?
Nothing. I'm just whining.
Mwah.
We have a guest that's joined us.
Hello, sir.
Oh, that's
Allan.
good. Yeah. Hey.
Hello.
I know that guy.
I've just been patiently listening. It's interesting topic you guys are talking about. So didn't want to
join in. Join in. We
Did you purchase an Atari VCS, Allan, or no?
Absolutely not.
I will say though, the watermelon stage on Food Fight, awesome. We just sit on the watermelon and chuck watermelon everywhere and wipe out all the chefs. That's the best.
That's the only stage I remember from that game is the watermelon one.
Yeah.
My wife is like, I remember that celery stage. That one, yeah. She's gonna hate me.
Why is the watermelon stage better than like pies or whatever else?
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm asking. Tell the listeners why.
The watermelon never runs out.
Oh.
So if you like move the controller just a little bit,
sure,
just enough to give it direction but not move your guy, you can sit on a watermelon and just like plaster the entire screen with watermelon. Next time you're over, I'll show you, but you can't play since you want to play at a game terminal.
Oh. Juggernaut just joined the chat. He just woke up.
What? Oh, there is Jobber Ruga.
Get a Jabba Raga. Yeah, that guy, he's a stalker. I've seen him on the show before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that derailed quite nicely. So hey, how about a new segment?
Sure, why not?
All right,
what do you got?
I don't know.
Back in '82,
I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the cave with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Hey everybody, welcome to Back to the Cave. This is the segment where I steal a news article and use it as my own, and I pretend like this is my segment. Here we go. From People.com, classic Atari game found at Goodwill. Worth more than $10,000. This is insane. So one lucky shopper at a Goodwill in Texas, not near me, damn it, hit the video game jackpot. A box filled with old video games recently donated to the North Central Texas location contained an item that some video game aficionados call only a dream of stumbling upon an incredibly rare Atari game. Goodwill confirmed to Fox News, that a copy of the game Air Raid was discovered by one of their employees, Alex Juarez, who was savvy enough to only dream of stumbling upon this Atari game. So, long story short, they auctioned it off for a whopping $10,990. Only 13 copies of this game exist. It's too bad that this Alex guy was like savvy, because wouldn't that have been awesome? Like, you go into this Goodwill and all of a sudden there's this $10,000 game for sale for probably $1 or something. That would be like amazing.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
So the article goes on and says that it's great. Goodwill North Texas can provide day habilitation services for a year for one adult with disabilities or provide 20 homeless individuals. I'm like, wah. So I'm like, I wanted the other story where somebody found it for $1 and they're like, oh my God, but hey, good things happen, right? That's great for these people. I'm happy for them. But
yeah,
that's awesome. If any of you guys have an Air Raid, let me know, because I'll help you take it off your hands for you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You're rooting for the one guy over the 20 homeless individuals having job placement services. Let's go.
Yeah, Brian just had to make it a social issue. Thanks for that.
I'm going to need the receipts to show that this arcade cartridge actually paid for these things, please. Thank you. I feel like I'm sweating now. Am I broaching a subject or crossing a barrier? I don't know. Hey, Adam, what's in the juke?
What's in the juke?
Welcome to the Season 5 edition of What's in the Juke. It's the game within a game within a podcast. Today, we have 1980s arcade game cartoon theme songs that will be played. No, wait, you're jumping the gun. They're going to be played with no vocals. We used an AI to do this.
Interesting. Good.
Yes, exactly. So if you can guess the cartoon it's based on, you will receive half point. If you can guess the manufacturer of the arcade game that it's based on, half point. Also, yes. If you guess both, full point. You don't know what it is? A lot of fighting. Hey, so now that the fighting's over, let us begin.
Okay, so here comes your first track. I love this. I would have gotten this, and I'm actually shocked.
Would you?
Yeah, yeah, it's a terrible show, and I love it.
No.
Yeah.
Now, I think this one didn't actually have any vocals at all. I didn't have to remove vocals.
Right, they were not there. Yeah.
They just used every, audio trope that they had available to them in this intro.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very generic. It is Donkey Kong. Nobody got it. So let's go on to the next. Here comes your next track. Wait, it sounds almost exactly like the other one. So, in case the listeners are wondering, these are from Saturday Supercade, right?
The Supercade, right?
So
we have a few selections from the Supercade.
Yeah.
That was a block created by a company that was formed basically to go against Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Who provided cartoons for all 3 networks.
Yeah.
I do like the Captain Caveman guess. That would be a great
Captain
great
Cave.
But Captain Caveman, not an arcade game, sir.
No.
I'm so sorry.
Caveman Games is a Nintendo
Should have been.
game.
Could be.
Yeah, that was Donkey Kong Jr. Nobody got that, but we're 0 for 2.
0 for 0. Everybody's tied.
Yep. All right, here comes your next track. I love these. They're just... I actually have these DVDs. Ooh! Jabba Jugga Jugga Juga was close with Space Ace.
Close.
Yeah, very close. Not Space Ace, maybe its predecessor. And then,
Yeah, Alan, normally we do 80s music, and so, or 80s TV
I was around in the
shows.
80s, yeah. I'm not good with names or anything like that. So
These
I'm
are
just
pretty
kinda biding
bad.
my time.
I don't know any of these.
I will have to give that one half point to Mr. Peabody. Okay, here comes your next track. No, it is not Pac-Man. It is Frogger.
Being a terrible theme song, I can't imagine a cartoon that was like reasonable to watch based on Frogger.
We got Jabbaruga got a Frogger out of that. That's a good. And here's the vocals only on that.
When you gotta have a story, or you're gonna lose your job. When there's no escape from danger.
I can't even understand what they're saying. Okay.
If you're gonna have a story.
Drink some drinky.
When you separate the vocals out of that one in particular, it is harsh.
Yeah. Okay, here comes your next track. Oh, this is recognizable. Yeah.
Mr. Peabody.
Half point.
Half point for Mr. Peabody on that one. Okay, here comes your next one. This one's hard. But it's good theme. It's a good theme.
Whiskey Flipper.
Oh, he gets a full point.
Full point.
That's pole position.
I mean, I would have given you Namco also, but Atari is good enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's the vocals
From
only.
now on, like your parents were, you are the secret force of pole position.
Like our parents were.
They're moving real fast, they're the only ones who can get there on time.
Okay, sis.
And never too far behind, they are always fighting crime.
Stop behind there. Ready when you are, Rhodey.
In the danger.
Oh my gosh, that's weird.
It's so weird how they isolate the audio.
Yeah. Okay, here comes your next track. Yep, Mr.
Mike
Peabody.
Page.
Half point.
And
Mike
it is.
Actually, Mike Page beat him.
Oh yeah, Mike Page. And then we have to give Gottlieb to Jabba.
Half point.
All right, cool. All right, so this is your last clip. Here it comes.
Mr. Peabody.
It is Mr. Peabody.
Half point.
Digital Leisure counts, I think.
Does it?
Yeah, they're the ones that actually own the property, but
now.
But yeah, it wasn't Don Bluth Productions. No, the game manufacturer was Cinematronics. So
Leisure Suit Larry.
Yeah, right. That's pretty good. All right, everybody, great job.
Good job, everybody. Mr. Peabody actually won that one. Behind him was Whiskey Flipper. And, in third place, Mike Page, Jabber, and I gave Billy 7.5 points for coming up with Ruby Spears, the name of the production company.
Lowest score ever on What's in the Juke.
Well, everybody else has a 0, so.
Right.
Thank you. I'm here all night.
Okay. I guess that we have to check the
voicemail.
The voicemail.
We have an interview after that.
We do. All right. Someone tell. There is a voicemail. Somebody should tell our guest about this little.
We have some guy. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There's a homeless guy living in a container behind Walmart somewhere down south that calls in and leaves messages.
Yeah.
He's been arrested. He's been in jail. He's been chased by the sheriff.
For a while, he was living on the SpaceX launch platform or landing platform in the middle of the ocean.
I didn't quite catch how he got off the landing platform.
Yeah, I don't know, but then he ended up in prison. I mean, he's had a sordid, but he calls into the show. He loves calling into the show.
I mean, there's a phone in the prison, right?
Right, yeah. And actually, he escaped prison, and the warden called us one day.
Wasn't that the farmer or the warden? I don't forget.
Well, there was a farmer and like the sheriff, right? Wasn't there a sheriff?
Well, let's see what the voicemail is today.
Okay. You wanted this to move along?
I did.
Thank you for calling 612-548-GAME. This is Arcade Radio. Please leave your message after the tone.
Architect, control panel expert, and technician. You know, guys, I totally went viral last week with my voicemail to you guys. All of a sudden, I've got like 40 prison pen pals. They want to be my buddy. That's so weird, right? Who knew? Anyway, I'm out of that truck driving business again. It turns out the sloshing sound I was hearing, that was liquid nitrogen. Did you know you're not supposed to drink that? Hey, lesson learned. I was, today years old and all. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm on the prowl for my next employment opportunity, and not a lot of people know this, but in addition to being a control panel expert, I am also a huge skydiving enthusiast. Yeah, I've skydived so many times, it feels like I'm skydiving right now. Maybe I should call you during the next one, right? Do cell phones work that high? I guess we're going to find out, right? Hey, oh yeah, that's a good plan. Okay, so I'm going to get started on that. You guys have a great show. Let me know if any cool jobs are out there for me. So talks amongst yourselves and such. Srsly out.
That was a quickie.
It was a quickie. I'm looking forward to the skydiving call. It'll be like...
I mean, we could use a control panel expert up at Starcade.
Yeah.
All right.
What are your most problematic control panels?
There's a couple of them.
Here we go. Welcome to the show. And by the way, in case those of you who don't know, joining us tonight, he's into technology. He's an early adopter. He's an emulator enthusiast. He's a renowned fighting gamer and beard expert. It's the self-proclaimed nerd and official narrator for hire. Ladies and gentle dudes, please give it up again for Mr. Sujano. Both times.
All right.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what I stumbled upon here.
Yeah. It's actually called it's a morning show at night.
We kind of like wrestled them into this. Like, no, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time.
Oh yeah, you'll have a blast. You'll listen to us talk about we don't know.
Such a nice Canadian. He's like, I can help you out. And
Yeah,
he shows
sure.
Up. He's like, oh, I can't sign off now.
He's like, I'll tweet my users after the show.
Where are you guys? I can tweet right now. I just didn't know because you're not on YouTube right now, right?
No, we're on Twitch.
My
We're on Twitch TV.
On Twitch, okay.
Yeah, /Arcade Radio, and that's without an A at the beginning. Or you can go to arcaderadio.live. Either one.
We've grown up. We basically actually I'd say we grown up, but we got booted off YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, we posted one of our episodes 4 years ago.
2017. Yeah.
Okay, whatever the math is for that. Yes. Somebody sent a DMCA for like a 2 or 5 second clip or something.
Yeah, 8 secons.
And it kicked us off of streaming live for 90 days.
Yep.
So.
Oh, I think I remember that. You guys, if I wasn't mistaken, you guys put out a video on that. I think
Yeah, it was April Fool's. It was the day. It was April 1, and I had to tell everyone that we were switching, and it was real.
Right. Yeah. We used to stream Twitch and YouTube, and then we were like, who needs Twitch? And
right.
And then and now we're back.
But now we're just like, okay, Twitch is,
Whiskey Flipper says, "Wait, a Canadian? I thought he looked familiar."
Yeah. Yeah.
All like 5 of us up here. Yeah.
So welcome, Allan. So Allan is a guy. So I do, for those of you in the chat who don't know, I do some work in the FGC too. We at Paradise Arcade Shop, we do a lot of products there. Allan and I met discussing a product that I was selling at the time. We're still selling in the shop. Pretty much no one in the chat would be very interested in that right now, unless some of the FGC guys jumped in. But Allan is really kind of this prolific guy who talks about a lot of stuff in fighting game community, controllers, and other things. And I thought a dynamic personality that would be a neat person to talk to on the show, and really kind of bring some breadth to what's going on. He was spoiled because he listened to the Susan Ciani episode.
Oh, yes.
We just had her melodic voice through the whole thing. So he's like, this is an awesome show. When in reality, we're terrible. But
right, yeah.
It's like so engaging.
We're shooting like 10%. So thanks for starting with that one.
Yeah, it's like, you listen to this voice. It's like, I must follow her to wherever she goes. And it's this must be an amazing show.
Yeah, let me get you a link to our original version of the Nolan Bushnell interview. So that
I did prime him on that one. I said,
okay.
if Adam ends up sleeping on the file cabinet next, you've got a good show.
Right.
So I guess, Allan, we ask a lot of guys that come on the show, what got you started on games? Like, what's the backstory?
Not too interesting. I had an NES back in the day, so I'm an 80s kid. I'm not like some of the music you guys were playing was vaguely familiar. I'm horrible when it comes to names and music and stuff. But just the NES, and then that got hit by lightning. My neighbor put up a ham radio tower that wasn't grounded properly. Got hit by lightning, destroyed all the electronics in our house.
Oh my!
Yeah. So then I got an SNES, had Street Fighter Turbo on that one, and it's been fighting games and game collecting ever since. It's just been the Super Nintendo was really the system that drove it home for me. I just absolutely love it. I actually think I have one. I don't know if you guys can see my back shelf.
Oh yeah.
There. So yeah, it's that's one of my favorite systems of all time. I mean, some of the arcade ports on that one aren't so great, but at the same time, I grew up in like a really small farm town with no arcade machines, so it was the closest thing I could get at the time. And I mean, I have an Atari too, but I think it's pretty safe to say those games aren't the best arcade ports out there.
No, they're not. What's the first game you remember playing that you remember thinking like, this is, like you mentioned Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but is there one before that you're like, this is like, there's something here?
This is my go-to.
Blades of Steel, which is probably not a very commonly known game. I mean, up here in Canada, hockey is pretty big, and it's a hockey game based off the Blades of Steel arcade game, and it's one hell of a game. I find that one, like, you play with a friend, and if you lose the fight, you get put in the penalty box. So it's it's not even close to real hockey, but it's so much fun. And ever since then, I've been kind of hooked.
Nice. Hey, so here's my question. You said you were sort of out, not near the city. So wherever the big city was near you, was there sort of an arcade like out there that you would seek, or some, gaming situation?
Yeah, at the movie theater in the city near me, they had some arcade setups. And every time we'd go, like, I'd want to go see. I'm not a big movie person, but I'm a big arcade person. And we'd go and I'd just play in the arcades and try not to see the movie and just try to go early and like try to rep up my family. Let's go. Because I wanted to play in all the arcades, and just waste time there. Nice. But or maybe not waste time, but it was a lot of fun. And that's where I'd play. And it was tough because, back in the day, my parents didn't have a whole lot of money, and arcades were expensive, especially when you're garbage at the game, because then you're really pumping in the quarters. But it was it was a lot of fun. I just remember they had one of those Star Wars cabinets there at the movie theater, and that was something else. I thought that one was really cool. And I think they had. I'm trying to remember because this is really jogging my memory, but they had a racing game, and I can't remember if it was pole position or if it was something else. But they had a few, and they had some newer ones like
if you
like
give
Super
us
Off-Road and stuff.
If you give us the tidbits of what that racing game had on it, we can probably what color was the cabinet?
Yeah, could you shoot people with it when you were driving?
Like Spy Hunter? No, I don't think it was.
Or Road Blasters. It looks a lot like pole position.
It might have been Road Blasters, to be honest with you. I don't think it was pole position. Like this is jogging my memory. Like this is like over 30 years ago. So I'm trying to remember.
I mean, it's funny. So I remember going out to like movies, or actually skiing was the place where we used to sneak off and play in the arcade. And our parents would go nuts because they're like, we bought a lift ticket and you're in playing, and there were expletives used, arcade games. And like, so how did you convince your parents? I mean, like you said, small town. I grew up in not a huge place, but like, how did you convince your parents? No, give me some quarters. This is important.
You just be a shyster until they put up with you. I think that was the way to do it. You just find out ways to piss people off till they just want you to go away and play the games on your own. And I think that worked pretty good.
Nice. So Street Fighter 2 Turbo SNES, and then it was all downhill from there.
Absolutely downhill from there. Like on the original NES, my memories of that are vague because I was young. But yeah, after SNES, I was just hooked. And then N64 came along, and I was still like, I knew I had a problem when N64 was out, and I found myself booting up the SNES instead. I'm trying to pick up games on discount. Sorry.
No. And for those of you in the chat who don't know, Street Fighter 2 Turbo is kind of the go-to game for the classic fighting game guys. And this is something that in the arcade world, so up until maybe 7 or 8 years ago, you could go on KLOV and buy Street Fighter 2 Turbo boards for like a couple $100. And it was because nobody knew what they were worth, whereas in the fighting game world, if you put them out there, they were going for tons of money. Street Fighter 2 Turbo is the classic Street Fighter game. That's when Street Fighter really kind of hit its stride.
Yes.
Yeah. So what character were you playing?
Yeah, exactly.
Either Ryu or Ken. Usually Ken. When I was younger, I wasn't fully a ginger. I started out being like a blonde. I had like white hair as a kid. So it was like one of the characters I kind of identified with a little bit. And I didn't know how to play charged characters at the time. So it was mostly Ken. And then I just had fun. He had a couple broken moves that were a lot of fun. And that pretty much, like, if someone doesn't know how to play the game very well, it's almost a guaranteed win because he has a couple moves that kind of trump everything. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, just Ryu or Ken, and it's kind of carried on because it's a very similar play style in pretty much every other Street Fighter that's out there. Like,
and
I don't have
we're
to
talking about Street Fighter
bunch.
2 Turbo, right? Street Fighter 2?
Yeah.
So, and that was ported to like, well, first it was an arcade, right? So then it was Amiga, PC, 3DO, Dreamcast, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation, Sega, and with Saturn, it was on everything.
Everything. Like it's on the PC Engine as well, I think. So.
Yep.
So were you playing like? I mean, were you playing friends coming over? How was this? Like, were you just playing the console? How were you doing this?
Just friends coming over. I didn't have a PC. Like we had an old 386 or something at the time. Like just a piece of crap that couldn't run anything. But we had we just played on console and just had friends over and play. And those were like some of the best memories.
Which console did you have it for?
The SNES for Street Fighter 2.
Oh yeah. So you had SNES.
Yeah, the SNES. And I remember playing it on. I remember one of my friends told me about that code where you could like get the extra stars to make the game stupid fast. And like on Genesis, I think it had it unlocked by default, but on SNES it was just something else, and it was just that was wild.
Cool.
Really good times, yeah.
Were you at Evo 2 years ago? Because they brought over the Tekken 2 Turbo Tag. There's like one board, and it was just like Tekken on drugs. I mean, I
love Tekken Tag. That's one of my favorite versions of that game.
What Evo? Sorry, what Evo?
It would have been 2019.
Yeah, I was at Evo 2019. I might have missed it.
So we brought a whirlwind. Harada brought over there's one board, and he brought it over. He put it on a cyber lead for the event, and it was crazy because like, I mean, I'm okay at Tekken. I'm not very good, and watching this, it was just like, I mean, you had to be on speed to keep up with this thing. It was insane.
Tekken Tag Tournament Turbo.
Yeah, it was the original. It wasn't Tekken Tag 2. Mm-hmm. It was an old style board plugged in by the.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name. It's JVS system. So, and just to mention, so Big Bad Brad mentioned so many cabs are converted to Street Fighter 2. They were, but like, so the ironic thing is that for most of the guys in the classic community, when you hear Street Fighter 2, you're like, oh my gosh, Street Fighter 2 hyper fighting and all these other things. Street Fighter 2 Turbo was a completely different game than a lot of the ones that were done by conversion. And Street Fighter 2 Turbos actually weren't very common, but there were a number of different versions of Street Fighter 2 that came out. So what most of the cabs are converted to is kind of a crappy version of Street Fighter 2. And what a lot of the guys in the fighting game community go back to was a really refined version of that is actually quite a good fighting game and very technical. When you see these guys play at competitions, a lot of the guys who are kind of the old school guys who really have a lot of kind of fundamental skills in Street Fighter, this is the game you'll see them in tournaments in. So, sorry, coming back to you, Alan, what was the next Street Fighter that caught you, or what was the next fighting game that caught you, or game?
King of Fighters 98 caught me quite a bit. That was, I caught that one actually a little later on. Capcom versus SNK 2 on PlayStation 2. And I bought that on a whim. I didn't know anything about it, and I just picked it up, and it turned out to be one of the best gaming purchases I have ever made. I absolutely love it. It's just a mashup of SNK and Capcom characters in a game. Some of the sprites don't make sense, but at the end of the day, it was such a. I still play it today.
I actually have I have two follow-up questions to Brian's.
Yes.
Since we're talking about all these different fighting games and what sort of caught your eye, some of our audience probably doesn't play in this arena, So I was wondering if you could give us kind of a short history of, like, in your mind, off the top of your head, if you can think of it, of, like, I think like Karate Champ was probably one of the pioneering games in fighting games, right? And then as you move forward, you have Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and some came up in close proximity to one another, but like Toshinden, Battle Arena Shinden, which is like my favorite fighting game, but just because it was one of the first ones that I learned the moves on PlayStation, because that was a launch title. But can you kind of give us a rundown of like historically? Can you kind of run us through that? Do you know that, or?
So just fighting games in general.
I mean, we could, if we skip like the early, arcade games and go right to Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, which were really sort of the foundation for modern. Well, they were the most popular anyway, right?
Yeah. Like Karate Champ. I would say Karate Champ was pretty good for the genre. Even though I think I love the game, but I think the controls are atrocious.
Oh, they're awful, and it's super fun because everyone's frustrated while they're playing it, right?
The sound effects are great though.
Yeah.
But yeah, the like the original Street Fighter, in my opinion, was garbage. Like it wasn't very good. The moves were inconsistent, kind of backwards on how you do them compared to today. But when Street Fighter 2 came out, that kind of revolutionized fighting games and everything.
And Mortal Kombat came after that then?
Yeah. MK was after that.
All right.
And unless someone in chat wants to correct me there, but I'm pretty sure
that seems
Mortal
right.
Kombat came after that.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat was different though, because they had the so where Street Fighter was cartoony.
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat tried to be like this raw. They got the
rotoscoping or whatever.
Yeah. And then they had the fatalities, and then the whole ESRB was formed because of Mortal Kombat. And it was just, that game was just Mortal Kombat came out and really helped revolutionize as well in its own way, just with the violence and kind of chat again can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the ESRB, I think that stuff was actually taken up in the Senate.
Yeah, it was
because of yeah. So again, I'm Canadian. I'm not in the States, so I don't quite remember.
Gotcha.
But I do remember the controversy there.
I think that actually in the console wars they cover some of this.
Oh, okay.
In the documentary, but yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then Mortal Kombat came around. That really helped out fighting games. And then there were a whole bunch of spin-offs, I would say, like games that tried to be Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I mean, SNK, like the King of Fighters series, Mark of the Wolves kind of earlier, and then the Art of Fighting and stuff. If I'm not mistaken, and someone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure that was built to be like a rival for Street Fighter and was heavily inspired by Street Fighter.
Battle Arena to Shinden, for example, or to 2, I think it was the second one that was the one I played on, or maybe not. I think it was 2 on PlayStation. That actually seems very Street Fighter-esque, but it's in 3D and it did things with the cameras that had never been done before. So it's actually kind of like a Virtua Fighter version of Street Fighter.
That makes sense, yeah, because like that whole era, like the PlayStation era, was well, all of this, most of this stuff started off in arcades, but
sure,
but console speaking, like the PlayStation really helped revolutionize that 3D kind of plane. The Street Fighter EX series, Mortal Kombat had a really rough run when they first moved to 3D. But yeah, it was.
But I think that's really interesting that you picked like Ryu and was it Kevin? Ken, because like I default to the very generic white player, or I don't know, the Japanese player, whatever, at the very beginning of the roster. And then if there's like a crazy character like King, or some of the wackadoodle character that were in Battle Arena to Shinden, I'd take those too, because they were just fun to try, right? But it's funny to me that, or it's interesting to me that you pick sort of the human characters,
Oh, yeah. I'd usually just pick, like, I go through and find out who is easy to play.
Yeah.
And usually, like, the main character, like, for example, Ryu in Street Fighter, it's just, like, the all-arounder. So there's not anything like if you're a crappy player or new, it's pretty good to choose an all-rounder because then the strengths are more balanced.
Chatters, who are your favorite Street Fighter characters and Tekken characters, let's say? And then Brian, you had a question. Move ahead.
What? And I do like that Billy Seven brought up Tattoo Assassins, which is kind of a funny one to throw in there. But so Allan, what was it about Street Fighter 2 that kind of changed things? Because you talk about Street Fighter 1 not really being good with moves. Street Fighter 2 is a fundamentally different game, even though it's got the same name. So what was the change? Like, what is it that's going on? Because to me, from what I've seen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, everything after Street Fighter 2 Turbo is kind of like an evolution of that game.
Yeah.
Like it's really like, here's the foundation and we can add things, but like this is the framework you need to work. This is your basis.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like Street Fighter 1 was slow. The moveset was not good. They kind of reinvented the entire game, and it was very deep for Street Fighter 2. You have a wide selection of characters, a poorly written story, which has been like the staple of all fighting games since. And it was just a lot faster paced, and I think that's what got a lot of people into it because it was fun, and you could, for an inexperienced person, you can mash and get out some moves and just have quite a bit of fun with whatever. Like the characters that you could choose, there's so many of them compared to what was previously offered in fighting games up to then.
How about your most? Sorry, continue.
Oh no, yeah. I was just gonna say, and the music and how flashy it was as well. I think the artwork had a lot to do with it. Like if you watch that in the arcade, you walk by one of those cabinets, the art, everything's like coming at you. The sound effects, like it's to me, it draws me right in. But it's a very unique twist on if you're to go into an arcade back in the day, and then you got Street Fighter 2, in my opinion, just based on my own perception, it really stuck out. It was different than a lot of the stuff that was out there, if that makes sense.
What's your least favorite Street Fighter 2 characters?
I have a follow-up question.
So they call him, the translation flips between the Japanese and the American, but it's so Vega in the American version, and then in the Japanese it's Balrog or Barlog because the announcer says it wrong. Right. It's just the character with the claw. I guess Vega is his official name now, but he was so freaking cheap.
That's funny. That is funny. Here's a couple of. I'm just gonna say a couple of names, and you can say, trash or garbage or great or, whatever. Atari's Pit Fighter.
Good.
You like it? Okay, tell me why.
It's just fun. It's stupid fun. It's not a
very
good game, but it's fun.
Terrible. It's a terrible game. I don't know why anybody plays it.
It's fun just to goof around in those old ones.
I mean, Exterminator might be better than that game.
Oh God!
Whoa,
that's going far. I do have a converted Pit Fighter, a room this way. It's in a better state now that it's now a Rampart.
Yeah, Rampart's a good game. Okay, and then let's say Soul Calibur.
Good, really good. Underrated, very underrated Soul Calibur.
Yeah, that was for Cube, basically, right? The Soul Calibur 1 and 2. Was it on other platforms too? I can't remember.
Yeah,
PlayStation.
Yeah, Soul Calibur 2 was really good for the series.
Yeah.
Because I think GameCube, I think Soul Calibur 2 had Link.
It did.
Which is crazy. I think PlayStation had Spawn, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
But it was that was huge for the series.
You get into later Mortal Kombats, and I mean, like there's what version of Mortal Kombat are we up to now?
MK11, and they just stopped support, so MK12 will be right around the corner.
Wow. So, of the Mortal Kombat series, what would be your top 3 picks?
MK11 is up there. A lot of people don't like it, but from a a competitive standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, it's got to be up there. Like, there's no denying it. Mortal Kombat 2 is a fantastic game. Super underrated, and it's really unfortunate that the community for that one isn't very big.
Yeah.
Because that's a blast of a game. And then I want to say MK9. Like, I like that one.
Oh,
that one quite a bit too.
It's interesting.
I know a lot of people don't, but I do.
What was the speaking of sequels that were kind of, Street Fighter had a sort of a lull for a while. And then
that did.
Was it 7 that sort of reignited it?
I think so. Like, they had a really rough go on PlayStation.
Yeah.
N64 had some rough games too, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really fully recovered, I would say, from some of the hot garbage games that were put out.
Sure.
And they had a few spin-offs that weren't like the Sub-Zero. I remember playing Sub-Zero's what's it called? Anthologies or Mythology or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like that side-scrolling. It was so bad.
Yeah. Like any of the Batman games that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm looking in chat right now, and someone said Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Like, that was such a... I love that game. I got it on SNES. And then I got Sub-Zero right after that one, and it was like, that put me right off the series for the longest time, because it was so bad.
You're like, grapefruit.
I will give a quick shout out for Layer Shift, who's in the chat that did the UMK. Layer Shift does 3D printing for the fighting game community. They did a really nice job with a number of products. So they joined us tonight. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's awesome. Okay, then I have to throw this out here because I think this is this will spark some other conversations. But also on the GameCube, Nintendo had a great hit with their fighting game Super Smash Brothers. What do you think about that?
I love that game. I love that series.
Yeah.
It's that one. It's in such a weird place.
Yeah.
Because it's a fighting game, but it's not a traditional fighting game.
Right.
And the community is very like, there are some people who play Smash and play normal fighting games, but
it's separated. There is a definite separation of church and state.
Such a weird line. Yeah, I think it feels like they grabbed some mainstream people that would have otherwise not been into fighting, and then did it this way.
What's interesting is we've been at a couple of events with the booth where they put us next to the Smash, Smash competition, and it just gets like overrun with kids.
Sure,
I mean,
because
it's
it's kid safe, right?
In. Yeah, and it's hilarious because I mean the other funny thing is that from a business perspective, the kids don't spend any money.
Right.
So they're just like completely blocking the booth off with, like, 7 layers deep watching Smash, and we're going like, all right, well, we haven't sold anything in 2 hours. And
I have to say, Super Smash Brothers, guys, is probably somewhere in the 40 percentile, in my mind, for the increase in costs of gaming CRTs in the marketplace, Craigslist, etc. That game alone has caused 13-inch and 19-inch televisions to become very scarce and very expensive for good ones. And because kids want to play on the CRT, they want that experience.
And that community is huge.
It is
deceivingly huge.
Yeah, it is very big.
It's just like if you even look when they're involved in a fighting game tournament, like, that will be one of the biggest crowds coming in.
Sure.
And even like an older game, like on the GameCube, just Smash Brothers Melee or Melee, depending on how you want to say it. But that is such a fan favorite, and for an older game like that, it's just insane how big that community is. Like, I can't believe it's still got steam. It's still going, and
you basically will pay $60 for that game no matter what, or higher. You can find the disc for like $30 and hope it's not scratched.
And for those of you who haven't been to fighting game tournaments, you'll see people sitting down hallways with these 13 and 19-inch TVs plugged into the walls at hotels at these tournaments, just with like little pickup tournaments going on down the hallways.
Sure.
So you'll be out in Vegas in like a casino, and there's little CRT setups like every, however many yards are between the outlets and the hallway. It's quite interesting to see. I did have a question, and this is going to be a group question. What's your favorite fighting game attack?
Oh, I can answer this. So I'm, like I said, I'm a Battle Arena Shinden 2 guy. I like the main, male character Ichai. And actually it's hard to choose because all of the characters in that game have funny, they yell out funny things when you make the special moves and stuff. But, he says Ichai when he throws his fire, which is great because it's like, very powerful move. And you can throw it 2 different speeds, but then there's a 4-button smash everything down, special move. And he says, eat some more chicken. And then he flies up in the air and spins like a helicopter and just beats the shit out of whoever's in front of him. So
nice.
That's my favorite.
Allan, you got one? Any game.
It's going to be Street Fighter, and it's going to be the Dragon Punch, like the Shoryuken or whatever. It's just in Super Turbo, Ken has it's invincible. His light Shoryuken, nothing can like there is no way to punish it unless you miss and whiff. But the move's fully invincible. So it's one of those things that I've gone to again and again and again and again when you're fighting someone, and if they're completely what's the word I'm looking for? Basically beating the crap out of you pretty good. You can whip that move out and more or less save your butt pretty good.
You're down to like a tenth of your life and
the magic pixel that's left.
Yeah.
Use that.
Just to define it for the people who don't know, what's a punishment? You said you can't punish the move.
You can't. No, it's invincible. Like you try to punch it, you try to do anything, you can't do anything to it.
Yeah. So a punishment for those who don't know in the chat is like when somebody does a move, there's usually a weakness to it that you can take advantage of and exploit. And that move in particular, it's like there's just nothing you can do. It just comes through.
Can I?
We got
keep going. It's group chat. It's group chat.
Mark, favorite fighting game move? Because I got a good one.
Okay, so Raiden is my favorite character. He's been in every Mortal Kombat. I just think he's badass. I mean, he's known as the God of Thunder, so he's kind of the Thor of Mortal Kombat in a way, right? And I would have to go with him because he has this very ethereal quality. What's his move? I guess the move where you can hit up, down, up, and then he vanishes and then appears on the other side of somebody, and then you can kick their ass because they didn't expect you to appear right behind them. I kill my wife many times that way.
So my all-time. Oh, really?
Sorry.
Really? So my all-time favorite move, Otane in Power Instinct, Flying Denture Attack.
Yeah.
Pulls her dentures out, throws them at the people on the other side.
Shut up.
I'm serious. Best attack ever.
It's not as good as teleport. Come on. Let's just be honest.
I do like Whiskey Flipper, Mr. Miyagi, 1984.
Oh my God. Okay.
Adam, what were you gonna ask?
It's funny. I can't really remember. It was. It was one of those sort of like in the moment questions. It's gone. It's fleeting. It's so.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
So I always ask, not the negative questions, but was there ever a time that you did not play the games? Like, were you distracted by something in life before it brought you back, or did you just go straight through and never had a break?
Is this a group question or
No,
this is all you.
Oh,
correct.
A game that I went straight to.
I already know these guys. Yeah, they're
okay.
Or did you ever take a break from gaming? Did
you
ever say I'm gonna hang it up? My wife said no more games, and she took away my SNES, and I cried for a couple days.
Actually, I did take a break from gaming for a little bit when I was courting my wife initially because I was trying to be cool.
Right.
She saw right through it. But I was trying so hard, and she ended up buying me She ended up buying me, I think it was an Xbox 360, and just says, "Here you go. Like, just stop."
Stop pretending. Stop pretending.
That's awesome.
That's good. Actually, I don't know if any of us have ever answered that question. Have we stopped gaming for a period of years?
That's true. I don't. Okay. What about you, Adam?
Yes. My answer is yes.
Okay.
The funny thing is there was a long period. There's never been a time where I haven't had a console or an arcade game in my life. There's never been a time. I haven't always owned it myself. Like when I first moved into my house in Minneapolis in '96, my buddy had a PlayStation. I did not have a PlayStation. But I had a PC and I played games, so it's either been PC or console or arcades in some way. And I always consider myself a casual gamer. I'm not real hardcore. I love the technology as much as I love the game. And that's been true of everything. Like when I play arcade games, I love them. I'm not very good at them. I'm better than maybe my brother or,
me.
A couple of friends that come over, but I'm not fantastic at them. I'm not like a Billy Mitchell or, I can't play a game for 4 hours. I'm a 20-minute, I like a 20-minute fix and I'm usually good. That's why I was into Rocket League for so long. That's why I like Minecraft and it's lasted so long, because basically Minecraft is solitaire for me. I sit down and it's a sort of, my creative brain is working, but I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing half the time I play the game, which is why the game is addicting too. Cause you're just like, all of a sudden it lasts like 4 hours cause you built a castle, but anyway, there's been times where I have not had, played games, and, it's usually involves a woman.
Whiskey Flipper made a funny comment. I do have to say this. When I was courting my wife, the first time we were intimate, she said at one point, presumably to herself, "Finish him."
Not a true story. Not a true story. It's totally made up. Finish him. Yeah. Is he the one that was hitting on our guest, Suzanne Ciani?
Yeah. I don't know if Whiskey Flipper was. We did. No, that was
the Gleek.
Yeah,
the Gleek was ready to start having children with her. And,
well,
that was.
And Whiskey Flipper is Canadian, so he may have firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, sure. Secondhand knowledge, firsthand knowledge again, firsthand knowledge again. Yeah, I hear you.
So I stopped playing. So it's funny because the first game system I got was an NES. My dad got it for me for Christmas, and I was irritated that he didn't get me a Kyosho remote control car. And that was the first game system I had. Played it for like a couple months and then stopped. And I loved arcades. Like I didn't like consoles, and basically when I moved to Minnesota, is when I started buying arcade games. It was like a rebellion against my parents, and also an attempt to win my wife over, because she went to California and said, I hung out with my ex-boyfriend and we played Galaga and I love that game. And I'm like, I'm buying you Galaga for Christmas. Wow. It's her fault.
Okay.
Well, I gotta, yeah, never mind. Never mind. Mark, it was your turn for that question.
Okay, so I had a ColecoVision and then I lent it to some friend who screwed it up. And so I ran a BBS. First, I ran it on a TI 99-4A and then on a PC. And inevitably, the trading of games happened. Somebody had made a copy of a game, and then, it just was something that you downloaded. And anyway, so somewhere near the death of BBSs, I stopped playing. And then I went through the 90s, and then I got a job at Compaq, and I was on like the webmaster team. And this one dude, one of the business, guys that gathers requirements, he's like, "Hey, you got to try this MAME thing, man. You can play the old arcade games." And so I got it on my laptop, which is completely owned by Compaq, and they didn't have, they had no thing to check that. And so I was like addicted. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to start playing arcade games again. And then I got I think a PlayStation 2. That was the next like console that I got to pick up. So that gulf somewhere between the death of BBSs, I don't really know what I was doing. I was listening to bad 90s music and driving a Toyota Corolla. So that's, there were women. I mean, don't get me wrong, but nobody made a commitment. I think I used to joke with my friends, I was training girls to get married to somebody else. And so.
All right, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Sujano that relate to your YouTube channel. So, before you're a fighting, or after you've been a fighting guy for a while, you like fighting games. You're part of the fighting game community. You've helped cultivate that community. But you're also an early adopter and a tech nerd. So tell us a little bit about your channel and what you do.
Okay. Well, that's an easy one. So my channel is a hodgepodge of like everything, gaming and tech. So I've had a really hard time trying to niche down and do one type of video. I've had some videos that I haven't put any effort into, any thought into, and then they've gained a lot of traction. And they're just kind of like an afterthought. I just felt like doing a video, and then lo and behold, a lot of people watched it. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm really into gaming technology, like the new gaming technology coming out. I'm really into emulation. I'm a huge fan of emulation, just from an accessibility standpoint. And just it blows my mind that I can play, GameCube games on my phone.
Yeah.
I can play every freaking arcade game.
Battlefield 1942 runs on that thing.
Yeah, like it's it's insane. And so I'm a huge fan of that stuff. And retro gaming tech has really taken off in the last number of years. So I'm just completely fascinated by it. And then any of the other tech I take a look at, like Raspberry Pi.
Sure.
I've just, that stuff really interests me. So my videos are generally what I'm interested in at the time, and they do kind of fluctuate. And I have very different pockets of audience who watch my videos. So some people are there for emulators and they don't care about fighting games. Some people are there for my Raspberry Pi stuff and don't care about anything else I do. So it's a really big mix, and for the life of me, I've never been able to niche down into something in specific. So,
actually, I really appreciate that. Actually, yeah. And I didn't know about your channel, so I watched a bunch of videos. So I'm, the dulcet tones of Mr. So I think everybody should check him out. So give us your channel name.
I will say, like, one of the things that I really appreciate. So I mean, Allan and I met each other because there's a couple competitive products in the fighting game market. I reached out to him. He'd reviewed one. I said, review mine. One of the things I really appreciate outside, and I'm not going to even mention my stuff, is just how like honest and like basic, like he drills it down to, this is what I like and I don't like.
Yeah.
And he's just very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not, it's very much presented as like, here's what I think.
Yeah.
And there's like this just basic, like, I like this, I don't like this. And the videos are incredibly easy to watch.
Yep.
You feel like you get something out of it, and you don't feel like you're being fed a commercial. You feel like you're like having a conversation with somebody. So, I mean, when I first watched your videos, I never said this to you, so I'm sorry if I'm like embarrassing you online.
He's gushing. He's gushing.
One of the things I really liked was just like, it's like, I just, I mean, you're pushing competitive products to mine, and I'm like, I like this guy. Like, he's talking about stuff that like is competitive what I'm doing, and I kind of like what he's saying. And I think that's neat, and that's not present a lot. So if you have something you're interested in and Allan's talking about it, I mean, really go watch this video, because you're going to get a very level view of what's going on. So,
and that reminds me of the question I was going to ask you earlier in the show, which is,
yes,
when you do your, like all these different fighting controls, all I use is a PlayStation or a Xbox controller. That's like all I ever use. I actually bought a fighting controller for the Wii at some point, but the Wii sucks as a fighting game platform, in my opinion. So like, I've never really invested in like the actual fighting game community stuff. And I was going to put Brian on the spot and ask you, Allan, what do you think of that crazy, quote unquote, first of all, why is it called a stick? There's no stick. It's just buttons. It doesn't make any friggin' sense.
So the Stickless arcade stick.
Yeah.
Yes. It's got so many names. So
right.
First off, before I answer this, I just want to say, Brian, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I always try to do fair and unbiased. And if I don't like something, I back it up with a reason and a fact, as opposed to just a feeling. I try to be very factual in what I say. But
and the people that are asking you to review their stuff are asking for that.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I won't do a paid. Like I was really offended. I'm getting off topic, but I'll get back to your question.
No, it's fine.
But I got an email last week or the week before, and it really put things into perspective for me. And it was the first one I'd ever got where this company reached out and they wanted me to review something. I'm not going to name the company or the product.
Nintendo. Wait, no.
Yeah, right. I don't think Nintendo likes me. And I can get to that later on too if you want.
We do.
But it was okay. I won't name the product or the company, but they asked me for a review, and it's like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a fair and unbiased review. That's what I do. And they said, no, we want a paid review. And I said, well, what do you mean a paid review? Like when I do a review, I'll do a review for free on a product. That
they want you to get down on your knees and say good things.
Yes, and that's what they wanted. Like I will do a paid review but I will give it an unbiased and fair review. But it's a paid review if it's a product I don't want to do or I don't normally do for my channel. And they're like, no, we'll pay you to take a look at this fair and unbiased. Okay, like maybe I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
But a paid review to give it a positive review and to sell people on that.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me. And I actually lost a bit of sleep about it because they were very aggressive. And they said, well, other YouTubers do this and name a price, and this is very unprofessional of you. I'm like, it's unprofessional of you for asking me to be pro product.
And that's the difference between a modern influencer and a freaking Gen Xer that just wants to do a good job.
I guess they want a commercial, really.
So, they wanted me to, but then that puts my brand at risk, right? Like if I were to accept money to give a positive review, I'm deceiving my viewers. I'm deceiving everything that I built my channel on, just for a couple bucks. And at the end of the day, like I have a full-time job. My channel is my passion and something I enjoy.
Sure.
I can relate.
And I'm not there to make a living off my channel. Like I do it for fun, for enjoyment, and I'm not going to throw away my integrity for a couple of bucks. And that was one thing that really I lost a lot of sleep about that. That really, because they didn't have a positive response. I emailed them back saying, no, like I'll do it for free, but it's a fair and honest review, and that's all I'm going to do. And they were insistent, and they got very wordy with me, and it was not a good experience overall.
Wow.
So, needless to say, you won't be seeing.
Speaking of not a good experience, tell us about Brian's fighting stick.
Yeah. So the Stickless arcade stick, we can get back to that. That's positive. So the Stickless arcade stick, that's something. The initial one, Hitbox actually reached out to me because they were like one of the. I don't know if they were the first, but they were pretty close.
So just to clarify, the reason for the people in the chat that don't know, Hitbox was the first to come out with a Stickless arcade stick, and they have the name Hitbox copyrighted. So it's a lot like Xerox.
Sure.
Or photocopy.
Kleenex.
Kleenex.
Hoover.
And so a lot of people in the fighting game community don't know what to call these sticks because they're hitboxes, but you can't call them hitbox, so they call them stickless sticks.
Why can't you call it a button box?
Well, you can. So I actually did a video on that. So I was like, I originally called them hitbox. Like I called anything with a buttons only a hitbox because that was the brand recognition, like Kleenex almost, right? Like the term was genericized.
Exactly.
And everybody in the community was calling them hitboxes, like everybody. And that's what we called them all. And because it was so new and so unique. And that was just like the term that got coined. And Hitbox actually reached out and said, hey, can you help us not call them hitboxes anymore? Because everything's being associated with them.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I did a video because I didn't know what the heck to call them. I heard of button box. I've heard of stickless. I've heard of leverless, buttons only, like you name it. There were cheat box. That's a big one.
Yeah. Cheat box is a good one.
Yeah, but it's a very unique thing that has revolutionized the entire fighting game community and has started to revolutionize game controllers in general. Just in the fact that motions are quicker, everything is quicker on one of these things because it's like using a keyboard, right?
It is,
and so much so that even arcade sticks that are coming out now are hybrids. Like Hitbox themselves came out with a hybrid arcade stick that has additional control inputs on it. So it's not just the joystick for movements, it's also buttons as well for movements, and then you have your buttons for all your actions. So that has really, and they're not the only ones, and that has really changed up the whole arcade scene, arcade stick scene. Sorry, not the arcade.
Sure.
The arcade stick scene, and it's interesting, and the whole thing behind it is actually controllers. Like if you used a DualShock 2, like a PlayStation 2 controller, or a PlayStation 3, PS4, whatever, they have two forms of directional movements. You have your D-pad and you have the joystick. And not all games, they do now, but not all games had the ability to tell if you were holding like left and right at the same time. And in an old Marvel vs. Capcom game, for example, you could effectively block on both sides by pressing left on the control stick and right on the D-pad because you're blocking both sides. Or on a hitbox, for example, if it didn't have that canceling in SOCD, but I'll get into those. Pardon my throat. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to clean my throat out.
Sure
no
thing.
problem.
I'm going to bring up right now. I'm sorry, but the answer to your problem with things being called hitbox, you should call them bitbox with a B, because the bit is the smallest increment of a data on a computer, and everything. All these buttons are off and on.
I love it. So, that's a great idea. Bitbox.
I like that.
Bitbox is great.
All right.
And actually, dude, someone at Paradise needs to frickin' get on the patent right now, or the copyright for that.
Well, so what's interesting is Hitbox actually has patents and has copyrights.
Not for Bitbox.
Not for Bitbox.
And actually, it's funny because Layer Shift is in the chat saying that they're partial to Junk Food Micro, which I just gave them credit for doing the buttons. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And the interesting thing about this is that in the classic community, the whole goal is to emulate what originally occurred, right? Like to kind of like recreate. In the fighting game community, the goal is to win, right? I mean, it's like, and that's it.
At all costs.
And so there are limitations, and the limitation is very simple. You cannot have a macro or a computer like interference or like a microchip interference that allows you an advantage. Outside of that, basically they've said all bets are off.
Sure.
And so if you think about it, when you're using a joystick, it's like playing with it's like a trombone or a violin. It's like an analog space that then gets converted to a digital space. With buttons, it's digital, and so it's very accurate. And so the hitbox allowed this like kind of revolution of accuracy and speed, which is what Allan was talking about. And to the classic arcade guys, they are like appalled. Like, so we've had actually people on the show who said Berserk would be an easy game if you put a good joystick on it, but we put a terrible joystick, so it's actually a difficult game. The fighting game guys would say, this is ridiculous, put a decent joystick on it and I can kill this thing all day. And so it's this very different mentality that's kind of fascinating to look at. And what's neat from my perspective is I kind of sit in both worlds where I get to play with the fighting game guys and do stuff where it's like, let's see how much we can enhance this. And then sit with the classic guys where I'm like, all right, we got to recreate this original. But as Allan was saying, like, this has been a complete revolution and moving forward. And so you reviewed the junk food micro, yes. which was so I will give a little bit of history. We showed up at Evo. We presented our Impress to Hitbox, who owned all the patents and copyright on this stuff.
Brian, you've never explained what the Impress is, so you got to tell people.
The Impress is a button controller, very thin. It was the first stacked controller that was designed. And we presented this
by you.
It was designed by me. So Alan's going to go grab his that we made for him. I'm guessing that's what he's doing. And we presented this to Hitbox and said, would you be okay with this? I grabbed the junk food also. And so we did this we did this at Evo 2019. We'd been designing since 2018. And to put it quite honestly, I dragged my ass at releasing it. I just didn't get it out till a year later.
As a side note, who did you commission for your likeness there?
For the cartoon guy?
Yeah.
Chris Starker art on Twitter.
Okay.
I found him on Fiverr. Great guy. He's crazy, but very, very nice.
Sweet.
And Alan's in 3D on that thing. So his body and his hands are on different levels. But we did this, and I dragged my ass at getting it out, and then
very cool.
Junk Food jumped in and said, "We're gonna do." And this is a 3D representation, so he's in the background. I love that picture. That's what you look like without the shirt on, right?
What is that? Yeah, maybe 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I was ripped.
So, and Alan, show us the junk food. So then this came out. So the irony of this is these guys launched this before we launched our Impress. And basically they started their pre-order, and I'm like, pardon my English, but I'm like, fuck. I gotta launch my thing. I've been walking around I'm like the cock of the walk. I don't need to worry about anything. And then they did it. So and these are the differences. There's a lot of differences in these two. I won't get into them now, but Alan did a review of the junk food micro, and I called him and I said, "Will you review the Impress?" And I just sent it to him. And I kind of went through what I thought was good about it, but I kind of sent it to him because I figured he'd just do what was right. And that was the thing that impressed me about him, is he really kind of he said a lot of great things about it. He said some negative things about it. And it was a good review. It was an honest, here's the things that I like, here's the things I don't like.
That's good. So, Allan, what have you it's got to be kind of fun for you as somebody who's been a fan of the fighting community to try some of this stuff out. So you have all these different new peripherals coming out.
Yeah, it's I'm interested in this stuff so much. So it's a lot of fun to take a look at it and for my opinion to be valued. I really appreciate that. I work really hard to understand this stuff and to learn about it when there's something new out and take a look at things. So it's really cool. It's fascinating. Junk Food Arcades, for example, they sent me there's on this snack box. I had the original buttons from Layer Shift. Again, amazing company. I recommend checking them out. Anyways, they 3D printed these buttons, and then Junk Food switched to molded buttons, the plastic molded buttons. And they sent me some molded buttons to take a look at. What I didn't know is they sent me all of their molded buttons to take a look at. They didn't have any back in the shop. So if I busted them or they got lost in transit,
that's not good planning.
So it was super interesting for that. And again, I'm trying not to be biased here. But when Brian sent me this, and it was the artwork on here, and I thought it was like 3D. Like I didn't know that it was going to be as cool as this. And it was like, I'm looking at this and I'm like gushing over it because it was like, look at the artwork on this. This looks really sharp. It's got the 3D effects and stuff. I actually had to grab this. The reason why I had to grab it is because I've got a TV over that way, and that's the one I usually use for
nice. That's so great. But it's got a really what I like about that too is it's got a place for your wrists, kind of. It's like, but one of the chatters was saying, so the directions are now buttons. How long does that take to get used to? And I'm like, well, probably not long at all, actually.
No, it's oddly intuitive. Like to learn it at first, it's like learning an arcade stick, right? Like if you're not familiar with an arcade stick, it's going to take time. It's like learning an instrument. But learning one of the stickless ones, like it'll take you time. But once you get it, and it's very accurate. Like
becomes muscle memory, just like everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can try it on a keyboard if you want.
Sure.
Like that's close. It's not the same, but it's close.
Yeah.
And see it that way. It's a learned thing. Like in a competitive scene, it doesn't matter what you use. You're going to have to learn on it. Even a controller. You think you go down a controller, try playing a fighting game competitively. There'll be tricks and tips, and you'll see people using the D-pad and joystick in tandem while pressing buttons. You'll see them playing it on their lap, like in a piano method. Like it's crazy to see some of these players. So it's just learning an instrument, really.
It's funny because before the show we were talking about maybe some of the topics we talk about, and one of the topics was favorite arcade ports. Like all these fighting games have sort of arcade roots. So which ones are your favorite? Also, just in general, like arcade ports. And we got to talking a little bit about Smash TV and how they made a version for the NES and the peripherals for that. And you can actually take two NES controllers, plug them in, turn them vertical, and use the D-pads, both D-pads. One is the fire and one is, and that's the most true representation you can play on a Nintendo for Smash TV. So it's interesting to me, like all of the different peripherals you can get, and honestly, I mentioned Rocket League before. I mentioned on the show before. I like the Xbox controller. It's the best controller for that game. And I can't imagine playing it any other way. When I played on the PlayStation with the PlayStation controller, I'm actually hindered because it changes. But that's because my muscle memory is so used to the Xbox controller. And so I think if you get one of these, bit controllers or button controllers, you train yourself, right?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Like going from, if you've been using the Xbox controller, going to a PlayStation controller, it's an adjustment.
Yeah.
If you go to the Joy-Cons on like the new Switch, that's an adjustment.
Sure.
And now even, I'll pull up a controller right here. So now controllers nowadays, I don't know if you can see this one on camera very well, but this is an 8-bit DOE.
I love them. I love them so much.
And on the back of it, controllers nowadays, and I'm actually getting one to review in a couple weeks. There more and more of them now are getting these buttons on the back.
Yep.
So right on the bottom of the grip. Like originally, I remember like the N64, the PlayStation came out. The trigger buttons on the top, the bumpers on the top were like the big thing. Now they're migrating as well and getting extra buttons on the back of the grips. And these are hard to get used to.
Yeah.
So it's
and they can be encumbering too, because if you're not used to a game and they're mapped, you're screwed, right? You gotta.
Yeah. It's tough. Like and I'm just looking in your chat. Grinwing there says the Xbox Elite. Yeah, like that was something else to get used to as well. So
yeah,
it's very interesting. I try my best to try to not stick with one thing.
Sure.
I try not to stay on a bitbox or whatever the new term for that you guys have coined.
I like it.
The 8-bit do actually also they make great SNES and Nintendo controllers with both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth controllers if you can get them because of the chip shortage and stuff right now. But I have both the wireless and the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth are super responsive. If you update the firmware on those, they are almost indiscernible from a wired controller.
They're really good.
And so what I really love about 8-bit do though is that they actually map out, like if you're a classic gamer like we are and you're playing SNES or NES, the buttons are exact to the locations they were on the original controller. There's none of this. They did have in some of their earlier versions, they had experimented with doing weird layouts for the buttons, whatever else. But if you buy like the SNES shaped one, it's a SNES controller. It's awesome. If you buy the NES controller, it has extra buttons and the shoulder buttons on a square controller, but you're playing on an NES controller. Like if you're playing Super Mario Brothers, there's no difference whatsoever. In that feel of it, they've got everything's perfect.
We have an 8-bit dough in the cartoon booth conversion I did.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it is that company there's very few companies that have come out and made products that are that durable, have great battery life. And I can't say enough good things about that company. They continue to excel at the products they release and improve them. And so if you haven't tried them, go try them.
Fun fact about their controller: I did a teardown of their SNES controller.
Yeah.
And when I was taking it apart, I was looking at it. I'm like, this looks oddly familiar.
Yeah.
So I took apart an actual SNES controller.
Yeah.
And it was near identical. And I was curious. So then I took apart the controller from the SNES Mini that came out, or the SNES Classic that came out the other year.
Yeah.
The 8-bit do controller was closer to the original SNES controller than the SNES Classic.
That is funny.
Believe it.
So Allan, 5 years ago, you did a review of the Hori Fighting Stick Mini 4.
Oh, geez, I hate that video. Yeah.
Now.
5 years ago, you made a video that sucked. Tell us about that.
Well, it was right after your 2007 Silverado Delta Flow exhaust. So now you have these companies coming to you and saying, "Will you look at my stuff?" Like, I mean, what's that like? What's that like? I mean, you've kind of gone from like, hey, I'm gonna like screw around on YouTube to like, you're one of the guys they look at and say, this is an influencer. Like, this is somebody who people listen to. What's that like? What's that feel like? When did you realize that?
That's a really good question. Yeah, like that video, I absolutely hate. I shot that in one take. Because I didn't have a computer that could handle editing at the time. I had a Frankenstein piece of crap that really couldn't do a whole lot. So I had one take with a waterproof it was a waterproof digital camera, like probably half a megapixel of sensors. Like it was a piece of crap. And so I hate that video, and it did really, really well.
Yeah. 125,000 views.
Yeah, like I did not expect that. And that was just the whole purpose of that video is people were talking crap about the Hori Fighting Stick Mini. And I was like, for a beginner, it's actually not a bad option. It gets people involved in like arcade sticks and gets people to feel. And after that, the response from that, I did a few more and got into things, but just to like nowadays when companies are reaching out, and I remember like one of the first companies who reached out, and I couldn't believe it. And it's like, you want my opinion? Why? And like, you guys are crazy. And then
who was that first company that reached out?
The one that sticks in my mind, like there were a few that reached out to start out, but one of the first ones to reach out that really stuck in my mind was actually Brooke. In the fighting game community. And they reached out, and it wasn't just here, review the product. They talked to me about it, and they wanted my opinion and feedback on it. It was the feedback part that really got my attention. Not just other companies had reached out to take a look at stuff, but it's more or less, here, we're going to send you this, give us a good review, or which I would say no, but just they would send stuff for a review. And Brooke actually wanted feedback, and I was like, you want my feedback? And that's when it really hit, that I was not to say I was onto something, but it was like, wow, like I've accomplished something here. Like, people actually want to hear what I have to say, and that's when it hit.
You're almost like a tertiary QA department.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't, for the life of me, ever want to be QA, but yeah.
But I was like, okay, this is great, except this. By the way, you should fix this. Yeah. No, I love it. You guys, some of the guys have said they've already subscribed to you after this, so this is cool.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but it's like I could talk to you for hours just because you're a freaking nerd. And I'm in the same boat you are. I'm an early adopter of so many technologies. The only difference is that you articulate it better and put it on a YouTube channel. So that's cool. So, I love that. And I was like, there's so many different YouTube channels. So it's like, how do you know where to find good stuff? So when Brian brought up your name, I'm like, oh yeah, fighting game. We should do that because we don't have like a lot of fighting game guys that come on the show. But then I look at your YouTube channel, it's like nothing to do with fighting games.
And it really, and I will say, for those of you in the chat or those of you who are listening later, I would highly recommend you go and check out a few things, because what Allan does really well is looking at fake versus real Sanwa controllers, and he really breaks things down to a level that really makes it familiar. And so if you've sat on the edge, so fighting games have kind of taken off, and the arcade community is kind of sitting in one camp. Fighting game community is kind of in another camp.
You mean the classic arcade community?
Classic arcade. So classic arcades here, yep. Fighting games here. If you're looking to kind of edge over, Allan's a great way to learn about stuff.
Yeah.
Because he really breaks it down to basics.
Plus, he seems pretty non-biased.
He really is. And
yeah.
I say that as somebody who sent him stuff. It was kind of funny because I remember, Allan, so one of the funniest videos was watching. So I was home for the weekend and I watched, so there's Nihongo Gamer, who's another guy in Japan who does reviews.
Yeah.
We watched his review and then your comparison of the Impress the Stackbox Micro with my entire shop standing around me at the same time. And, one of the things I can tell you is somebody who, my heart and soul is in that stick. That stick, that Stickless stick.
I say that a lot.
It's really a lot of my my passion for what I wanted to do. And you hit on high points and low points of both. It did it justice. And I stood there and I wasn't embarrassed. I got all these guys standing around me like, okay, what's going to be wrong with what Brian did? All the guys that work for me, right? So aha, you're an idiot, but you really presented it in such a way that was so level that you felt so when you see a lot of these videos, you feel like, all right, this guy tried to get me to buy this. But when I watch your videos, I feel like this guy tried to actually inform me about what's going on. And I think that's a distinct difference.
I think one of the distinct things about Brian's statement is that he's really brown nosing and he really loves you.
Wow. I was going to say, you guys are really buttering me up on.
Wow. Yeah. And by the way, so what we really want you to do is tweet about our podcast and just tell them how good it is. By the way, we're paying you for this, so you better, what I'm saying, right? It's quid pro quo. This is what it's about. So,
you guys really threw me off because when I joined and I was listening to some of the comments, it was like, oh, what am I getting myself into here? And then it completely took a 180. So
yeah, well, that's pretty much how our shows go.
You
so
don't have to butter me up like this. Like seriously, my channel's okay. It's not.
My channel's okay. We do not need you.
We one thing that we do on here is, and in all fairness, is we are very honest about things. I mean, I've been actually, so I hit up Layer Shift actually on Facebook, and for those of you who don't know, like Layer Shift actually supports my competition, not me.
Yeah.
And I said to them, like, is there anything you guys need me to let you know on air? Like this is about letting people know stuff. And I think one of the neat things about this channel and what we try to do on Arcade Radio is just present information, let people make decisions. And I think you are, Allan, you fit in with that. You know, I mean, like you really fit in with that. Like we have a conversation. It's a real conversation.
Brian makes it sound very noble, but I also want to make sure that you know that it's very selfish. Because like honestly, we invite people on the show basically because we want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's part of the charm of our show. We don't have an advertising campaign. We don't have a marketing department. But we manage to get guests that we enjoy, and you are enjoyable. So
I appreciate that. You guys have a fun channel. I mean, like listening to your 80s trivia there, the songs were so familiar. I can't name anything.
No, that was terrible.
Like with names, I'm horrible, but I was listening and you had now I'm even forgetting the freaking fighting game that we were talking about earlier. Karate Champ.
Sure. Yep.
Get Power Instinct.
By the way, I have to. That's a shout out to Ryan S1500 on this. He was the second listener on the show, or maybe the first. One of the first two listeners on the show.
5 years ago, right?
Yeah, and he's like, "You guys should use the Karate Champ stuff." So that's all Ryan. Thanks to Ryan. But yeah, we just have a lot of fun with it. So here's my thing. We're at 9:30. Usually we wrap at 9, and so
I'm good till whenever. So whatever.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say I don't want to keep you, but let's go a couple more minutes because I think we're having fun, and let's wrap it up because we could do a whole nother show with you, and whole nother. The whole nother thing, that's totally like Minnesotan and Canadian. Nobody says whole nother except
whole
for
nother,
us.
Yeah, that's a Canadian thing. We say that too.
Yeah, we say too. Yeah.
It's a Chesterfield, not a couch.
Yeah.
Do you say,
I don't know anyone who calls it a frickin' Chesterfield. Wow.
All right, so I have a question. I want to go back to our pre-show conversation. And here's my question for you. In what arcade games do you have in your house?
Oh yeah. Okay, that's a good question. So I think Grimwing was actually noticing on this side Mark of the Wolves and King of Fighters. Well, he didn't know it was King of Fighters 98, and I don't blame him for not recognizing it. He might feel justified in this. Those are PS4 games. It's Limited Run did some exclusive MBS, like kind of the old box style, and I'm a sucker, so I said yes, I'll buy those. But those are PS4 games. I only have three arcade games in my house. Two. I sold one. So I have two. So I have Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That's very near and dear. CPS 2.
Sweet.
So I got the A and B board for that. I can tell you a story about that one. And then I also have the arcade guys probably won't care about this one, but it's the Naomi, so Sega.
Yeah, well, so tell us what that is, because I'm actually interested. Like I said, I'm very interested in the hardware and all that sort of thing. And even though I have mostly classic games, I respect. Here's the thing. Like, there's a big division between classic arcade guys and fighting game guys, because when the fighting games came in, that changed arcades. So we went from a Bronze Age and a Golden Age where there were some interaction of two-player games that were fantastic, right? Football, basketball. Actually, some of the really early Bronze games depended on two players. And so those are a Fire Truck. I'm working on a Fire Truck right now. So those are super cool and really fun to play with people. because of the 2-player element. And I think there's a whole thing that's lost on us golden age guys that are like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and Mr. Do, and you know, and they're just they're pattern-based games. Tron, they're not. I enjoy the 2-player games. So like Mark, and you could back me up in this. Super Strike came out in the 90s.
The bowling game, right?
Yeah, you could have 4 players play that game, and every person that comes into my arcade says you can never get rid of this game.
Yes.
You know, and because they love it.
Get rid of that one.
Right. They just never get rid of it. Right. And that's part, I think there is a paradigm where there's a parallel between those types of games that are 2-player competitive from the early days. I say early days to the post golden age fighting games. So you get into Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and there's something really cool about standing next to somebody, and like sort of having a little bit of rivalry, like I'm gonna kick your ass, you know. So
I would agree with you there.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me what your feeling is about that.
Well, games have really changed. Like I have a really strong interest in crappy games. Like,
I agree.
I really like terrible games.
What do you think? What do you think of the WWF Royal Rumble? That's a nail.
Oh God!
I own one, the full size with the 2 monitors.
Sure,
it's amazing.
Love it. I love all those old games. Like, just if the game's horrible, I love it. Like, it's just I find it fun. I find humor and stuff like that. And I'm addicted to playing garbage games. Apologies if you think if you get offended by me calling it a garbage game, but it's like, I don't know. I just I have so much fun with those, and to me those are so precious. Like you're talking about Pit Fighter earlier, and I was like, yeah, I love that game too. And it's just I like so bad of games. But I think in terms of competitive, like even look at a game like Pong, where it's competitive to a standpoint, but it's very different than a fighting game. Like a fighting game just brings out sometimes like the worst in people, and the best in people.
Sure.
When it comes to competition, because it's different, because it's actually fighting. Like it's not just you're getting a ball past their paddle. You're beating the living crap out of them.
Right.
And it's very interesting. It's the competition. Like I will say, it's not near as toxic as some of the sports games. Like if you look at Madden or FIFA and you watch that competitively, like they get very, very angry. And that's just one-on-one, right? And then a fighting game is I find it, if you ever watch UFC and you watch 2 guys beat the living heck out of each other, more often than not, at the end of the fight, they shake hands and they're cool. And a fighting game is kind of like that. Like more often than not, in a competition, you'll see 2 people go at it. Sometimes there's rivalries that are toxic, but more or less they're friendly rivalries. Like that's the normal
so
for that whole community. And you'll see them shake hands and be cool with each other after the one-on-one fight, which is really cool.
I will say one of the more impressive things I've ever seen is if people in the chat haven't had a chance to go to a fighting game competition, I really encourage you to go to one. There's a lot of great ones, but like when you watch people come off of these sessions, they'll be in preliminaries, and it really is camaraderie. And after the match, the person who beat the other person will sometimes say, hey, here's what you could have done better. I noticed this here. It's all about making the whole genre better.
Yes.
And there are some people who fall outside of that. I'm not going to say it's all like, rainbows and unicorns and whatever, but there is a lot of like real camaraderie on like how to get better at this game. And it's really an amazing thing to see. I've seen people go, so they have like prelims, and people will like fight like hell to stay in these like early matches, and they'll go to this like competitions, or they'll go from Minnesota to Florida, play at CEO. They'll play like 6 games, get knocked out of the competition. They'll be like, "This was awesome." It's like, you just traveled how many thousand miles, and you're excited because you got knocked out in like the 6th game, and they are, and they have a great time. So it's a completely like, it's competitive, but it's cooperative at the same time, and it's hard to explain the actual atmosphere that's there. But I mean, you know, you can speak to that if you want, Alan, but it's a really different feeling. There's not a lot of people who really get what that environment is like unless you live in it.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And like at the end of the day, in a game when it's one-on-one, if you lose, it's your fault. You can blame anything you want, and it's your fault at the end of the day. And a lot of them, like a lot of people can take losing in stride, especially when they find out and they're just trying to get better. And it's such a great community, and that the community is the big word there, where everybody is just there to have a good time, support each other. Like if you watch the finals, people clap afterwards. They're not booing anyone. They're clapping. They're happy to see. It's a very interesting competitive scene. Whereas like if you watch some team games, people will be blaming their teammates. They'll be yelling at the other team. There's some toxicity there. Like it's a very different rivalry. Like in the States, I guess, like football is a big one where, you know, if you got the Packers and playing someone, you got people like pouring beer on each other and whatnot, or watching, you know, Tom Brady beat the living crap out of the Patriots. Like that's it's a weird thing to see, but it like you get some very intense rivalries there, where in the fighting game community, it's very different. And I'm comparing it to sports because esports is now kind of a thing, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. People are sharing information, sharing knowledge, trying to get better, and it's insane because it's at the end of the day, like people realize it's a video game, and the whole purpose of it is just designed to have a good time. So it's a really great community, underappreciated, I think. Like you see a lot on the internet, and for someone who's not familiar with the fighting game community, there's a lot of the funny moments and the low moments that are often promoted. Like if someone throws an arcade stick, or you see someone talking trash or anything like that. Like those are the entertaining tidbits that usually get shown that aren't reflective of the whole community. Right. And it's a very, very passionate community. Like some of the older community who lug these CRTs to events and lug CPS2s and all of the they actually bring, like at Evo, the finals for Super Street Fighter 2 were played on an Astro City, like a legit Astro City, and it was a head-to-head. So it was like it's something else to see out there. And not only like are these things, like you don't have to compete to play, and you can sit down. I was sitting down on an Astro City because I just saw it was open. I was like, I'm just going to play for fun. On the other side was one of the best Street Fighter players in the world. I had no idea. I started playing. I got completely dusted. Like they were good. Well, obviously so, but I didn't even know. And the community is so accessible, so open. And you can just sit down and you're not like a nobody. You're not a waste of time to anybody. Everybody is friendly and familiar, and they're there for the love of the game. And that's not everybody, but most people are there for the love of the game. And that's, I don't mean to be gushing over it, but it's all, well,
and I think there is a huge separation between church and state when it comes to classic arcade guys and the fighting community, because that changed the way classic arcades were experienced by a younger generation, or an older generation, as you might put it. But the point is the same people have the same love and openness for the classic arcade gaming community as they do for fighting. And somebody said, why can't we just all get along? And it's well, because we can't.
I will say, for any of you who are in the Chicago area, and have the chance to go to a Combo Breaker, which will be on next year, is an amazing event. You can see all this. For any of you who are in the Florida area, CEO is another amazing event, and you can really experience what's going on here and what Allan's talking about.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do one little thing here because I went over and grabbed out of my mini Neo Geo.
Sure,
but I thought you guys would
Oh, I love that game. That game is so underrated.
Is that
so
a fighting game?
It is.
Mark of the Wolves, yeah.
Sweet.
If you've never played it, I highly recommend checking it out.
I will. Is there any ports of it?
Yep. I have one on PS4 right by.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have a PS4.
Yeah. If you got Steam, it's on Steam and it's got rollback netcode.
Cool.
So it's got some of the best netcode available to play online.
Nice.
So I made a point of I have a mini SNES or mini Neo Geo over there with a 2-slot, and I basically went out and polled people and said, what do I need to have in there? That's one of them. The other one is I have Blazing Star, and we have King of Fighters 88. And we have
98, right?
Yep, 98, and we have Nightmare in the Dark.
Right.
So we can switch out what's in there. But, Allan, I really appreciate you hopping on the show tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's been an amazing time. I think, for those people in the chat who are used to classic arcades, I think your input and your insight is a great bridge over to the fighting game community, which to me, like I sit with kind of like feet in both these communities, and I'm like, why don't you guys get along more? You're one of those people who like.
I kind of feel the same way. Like
makes it approachable.
I love.
And
I will say that for me, things did change, but I also think they changed for the good. Like in the mid '90s, we had so much fun, mostly on consoles, but we had a lot of fun kicking each other's asses in these games. And like we would. Speaking of inviting, women over to play these games, we had a couple of girls who would hang out with us, believe it or not, and they would play these games and they just mash buttons and they kick our asses sometimes just because they were, it didn't matter what they were doing, they're just pressing all the buttons, I'm like, but I'm trying to actually learn how to play this game, motherfucker. So
I know. My wife has used Ryu to kill me like so many times.
I know.
Like, damn it! Stop electrocuting me.
It's not really. It's like she knows one move, right? Press these buttons. So anyway, I think it's super fun. I want to thank you for being on the show. Also, Brian is totally correct. We're honored to have you on the show. Can you stick with us a little bit after the outro? And we'll give you a proper goodbye.
Right now and leaving you guys high and dry. No, I'm just joking.
Nice. I love it. It's the first time anybody's said that. It's very adversarial. I think maybe we should play a little fighting game together. I think it'd be good. So, but yeah, hang with us after the show. We'd love to give you a proper send off.
Really quick plug here.
Yeah.
For those of you who didn't get it, Layer Shift, great 3D printing company in the arcade community. The other one that Allan showed tonight was Stackbox Micro, which is a really neat controller that copied mine. Just kidding, but they kind of did.
Bastards.
It's very different controllers. If you want to see the difference between the two, watch Allan's videos, and I would highly encourage everybody in the chat, if you have questions about the fighting game community, Allan is a great go-to.
Yeah.
Look at it, see what's there. You'll get a nice view of what's going on.
And Allan, before we sign off, you got to give us your own lay of the land. So tell us your YouTube channel and where we can find you.
It's youtube.com/Mr. Sujano, Sujano. I do a little bit of everything, retro gaming, not super retro as in probably some of your audience, but retro as in, well, maybe early consoles, I'll say. So Atari SNES.
Oh, yeah.
Technology. I'm an early adopter of a lot of stuff.
Sweet.
I just have a lot of fun over there, and it's a mixed bag. It's a variety channel of tech and gaming.
Awesome.
All
right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show, and that's been the Double R's Arcade Radio.
All right. So when I said Ryu, I meant Blanca. Hey, 2D Com is coming up in August. Ryu cannot electrocute you, only Blanca can, so that makes a lot more sense now. Hey, check it out, 2dcon.net, and join us.
Check out our website at Arcade Radio. That's RCADERADIO.com for all of our social media and swag links.
Or call and leave us comments just like Bobby Z at 612-548-GAME. That's 426-63.
Are you enjoying the show? Pick up the Arcade Radio swag over at teespring.com. Hey, consider supporting our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/Arcade Radio. There's multiple tiers starting at just $3 a month. Anything helps us with the cost of running the show.
Subscribe to our Twitch channel. To follow us, just click on the notification bell. It's somewhere around here. And so you'll know we're streaming live. That's twitch.com RCADERADIO exclamation mark.
My exclamation mic.
When you said Mark, I looked up. If you like what you're hearing, consider dropping a 1-star review on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume our podcast. Wait, 1 star is bad, right? No, the other way, bye.
So that's going to be it for tonight's show from the Arcade Radio team. We hope you had a great time. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. There's only like 2 episodes or so left after this. So, and then we're on to season 6 or something. So anyway, thanks for listening.